handle the truth. You can't handle the truth.
What do all men with power want? More power.
My name is Gianluca Zanna. I was an Italian by birth, and I became an American by choice. Our lives and freedoms are in danger. This is not a drill. If you're listening to this broadcasting, you are the resistance.
All systems go.
Welcome to Love, Guns, and Freedom. Here we go, guys. Another Sunday, another show. You're listening to Love, Guns, and Freedom with Luca Zanna on KTOX 1340 AM and on United States.FM network. Last Sunday, we started the big saga. Okay, this is not the Lord of the Rings, okay? This is something for me more important. The saga of candidates running for mohave-county-sheriff position. Why do I put so much emphasis, so much effort and attention to this type of candidates? Because I really believe that the position of the county sheriff is vital. It's vital to take our republic back. We already talked about that many times. I had here Sheriff Mack, and we talk about the case, the Supreme Court case, Mack Prince against the United States, that reminded to the federal government the jurisdiction of the sheriff, what type of powers the sheriff has. So why is so important? Because my only goal, as I said, I'm not here to pander or to push anybody. After all, as I said, I became an independent, and for a very good reason, because I don't want to be labeled, oh, you're a Republican, you're a Democrat. No, I stick with the Constitution, and I stick here for the truth. And my only goal, as I said also many times, especially when I bring you candidates, is not to push anybody, but to give you, the listeners, the opportunity to know more about these candidates. I will ask questions that normally they are important for me. And I also believe to you, because if we believe in the same beliefs, I think these are the questions we would ask. Simple as that. And then I just pray that you, the listener, and more important, the voters, will make the accurate decision. As simple as that. Now, second candidate of this saga, with an incredible guy, because I say incredible because they're all incredible for me. When you run for such a position, especially when you are more than, I think, 6 candidates running against each other, it's kind of an effort. It's kind of a commitment. So I think everybody deserves at least the idea to be commendable for that, okay? Anyway, he's a gentleman from Bullhead, I guess, but we'll find out pretty soon. His name is john-plough. I'm sure I completely butchered the last name, like I did the last candidate, so he's going to correct it right now. John, please, are you there? Plough.
Yeah, I'm here. It's John-Plough, just like what the farmer does to his field.
I know. Listen, this time, I'm sorry, but I almost did it intentionally just to be equal, because last time I butchered the first candidate, okay? So I didn't do the same to you. Anyway, nice to meet you, John. Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it. As you heard before in my intro, I'm not here I have no agenda but the truth. And of course, I don't know you, you don't know me, but we want to know you. Because after all, we must know you. You are the guy running for county sheriff. So I want to give you this microphone, and I would like to throw some questions at you. We're going to have almost a full hour, so it's going to be kind of interesting. And first of all, let's start to introduce yourself, I know that you're a candidate that seems like you don't have, let's say, a professional background in law enforcement, but every one of us has a background. Tell us about your background. Who are you? How old are you? What you do for a living? Blah, blah, blah. Go ahead, please.
All right, so you got that right. I'm the only one in the race who's not actually a cop. I'm a Navy veteran, and I did one tour in active duty as a sonar technician. That's one of the more intellectually rigorous jobs in the Navy. You have to know a lot about electronics and tactics and whatnot. And then I spent some time as a Navy Reserve, and that prepared me in the civilian world for absolutely nothing. There's no companies out there that are hiring people to sink submarines. So after I left the military, I got into sales, and in that capacity, I've worked in a lot of different arenas. So I have a wide variety of business experience in a wide variety of different fields. I've been a mortgage loan officer, a commodities broker. I've done construction estimating, and I've been self-employed now for about 10 years or so. That started with a small windshield repair business in Riverside, California, and then I shut that down, became a contractor with FedEx Custom Critical, and did that for about 8 years with my wife. So I've been all over the country. I've been accused of being a constitutionalist by the United States Border Patrol, which happened in a dispute while I was doing that job. And then my wife and I moved to Fort Mojave, and I opened up a gunsmithing business here, and I've been making my living in the last couple of years as a gunsmith mostly.
Wow, that's very exciting because, I almost should bring you into the second hour too. Normally we talk about guns, and probably I'm going to ask you some questions about that too, since, as you said, you're kind of a new blood, you're not from law enforcement, so I'd like to also ask a little bit about the Second Amendment, of course, some gun situation. Now, straight to the point, everyone is like you're selling yourself for a job market, okay? I'm not saying selling like,
sure.
But at the end of the day, you try to get hired like all the other candidates for a public work. And let's say we, the voters, or at least we should be the people, say, okay, give us your best shot. Tell us why the voters of Mohave County should choose you, John-Plough, right, for this position of county office. Why you're so specially unique? What do you have more than the other 5 or 6 candidates out there? Tell us.
Well, the number one reason that I got into the race was because we have serious challenges with our federal government exceeding their constitutional mandate. They're only given 10 powers by the Constitution, and none of those things are taking place in Mohave County, and yet they are sticking their nose in all kinds of things going on, not only just here, but also in other states as well. And one of the challenges we have with our local law enforcement, I can give you an example. There's 3,000 sheriffs in the United States, and of the 3,000, only about 10 of those people are actually on record as defending the citizens of their county against federal encroachments. And you'd mentioned, one of them earlier. Sheriff Mack is one of those guys. Mm-hmm. The reason for that, I think, is that in order to be a police officer or a sheriff's deputy, you have to be kind of authoritarian-minded. And let's face it, if you're going to spend your day in law enforcement, if you see a law, you want to enforce it.
Exactly.
And that is the mindset of most police officers. And so from the standpoint of a deputy sheriff or a patrol officer, that's actually kind of a good thing. But you want to be able to temper that, I think, by having someone who has not spent their career in law enforcement at the top. So, to a hammer, everything looks like a nail. Well, I'm not a hammer. I'm a salesman. I understand people. I understand how to talk to people. I'm able to take the opposing point of view. But on top of that, I'm also a law and order guy. I understand that there is a need for police officers, and in fact, in Mohave County, we actually don't have enough deputies. We ought to have more. Mm-hmm. But the main reason that I'm in the race is because I'm very concerned about what is going to take place in our country over the next few years. I mean, even if after we get rid of the clown who's in the White House now, everybody else that works in the government isn't going to leave with him. All of the statist wackos that are in place all throughout the federal government and the BLM and FDA and the various alphabet agencies, they're staying. Mm-hmm. We're not getting rid of those guys just because Obama's leaving.
Exactly.
And what the sheriff needs to do, and most of them, to be frank, have been dropping the ball. The role of the sheriff is to protect the citizens' rights and to protect their property from people who are trying to violate or take that property. And those people who are doing it are not always, crooks hiding behind a corner. In fact, many of the illegal takings going on in the country are happening from government officials. And the sheriffs have the authority to intervene and stop this nonsense, and they're not doing it. And as a small fish in a big pond, I see that I have the ability, if I get elected, to be able to do something at least for the people of Mohave County, and that's why I'm in the race. I don't believe that you need a law enforcement background in order to manage a department of roughly 86 deputies. I mean, let's face it, the Mohave County Sheriff isn't going on patrol. The Mohave County Sheriff has deputies that do all that work. What the sheriff serves to do is to set the tone of the department, to train the deputies, to set departmental policy. And in Arizona, the most important thing that the sheriff does, and I don't think many of them are even aware of this, because I mentioned this at one of the other sheriff meetings where all of the candidates were there, and everybody looked at me like I had lobsters crawling out of my ears. Under Arizona law, in the Arizona statutes, I believe it's Title 13, Section 3875, says that the county sheriff shall set a policy for certifying outside law enforcement agencies to work inside the county.
Yes.
And so each county sheriff has the ability to decide who is going to be allowed to do law enforcement in his county. So you can certify federal agencies, or you can decertify federal agencies. You can work with the FBI if you choose to, or you can decertify their agents and not work with them. If you think that, like Mohave County, we have a lot of drug issues, if you have a good working relationship with the DEA and the U.S. Marshal's Office, you can certify a couple of their agents to work with you, but you can decertify the FDA and the BLM and all of these other wacko agencies that have no business doing law enforcement in the first place, and protect the people of your county from all of the nonsense.
Very good.
And
let me stop you 1 second. You seem very prepared, and I'm pretty impressed so far, I must tell you. Especially, I'm reading here your resume and at least your website. Please give 1 second, plug your website, since we're talking about plug. Plug your website, please, so people can check it out themselves.
Sure. Anybody that wants to get more information about me can go to ploughforsheriff.com. That's PLOUGHFOR, and then sheriff.com. And if you put that in your Google window, it's going to come up as probably the top or the second search. And unlike most political websites, I actually have content on mine. So there's a whole bunch of links. There's information there so you can find out what's going on in the world, because I'm a big picture guy, and what I see coming down the tracks is a massive train, and it's about to hit the United States. And, I don't want to freak your listeners out, but anybody who's been paying attention to the world situation knows that something is coming.
Yeah.
And
normally, my listeners, they are pretty concerned. Now, I don't want to interrupt you. I want just to bring you some questions, but I think, you're right. This is a part of the big picture, and I agree with you. This is not just about what's happening in Washington. This is part of a global agenda to enslave us. It's called also global government. And most of my listeners, of course, know that. I was looking at your website, as I said, so we have some callers. You're a member of Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association, the NRA, Oath Keepers, and, of course, the Republican Party, because you're running for the Republican Party. Tell me a little bit, how did you find out about the Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association? How did you get involved with them? I think it's Sheriff Mack, correct?
Yes, that is Sheriff Mack. And, my father was a San Diego police officer, and back in the 90s, we had a corrupt sheriff down here locally. I mean, a really corrupt sheriff. They were dealing drugs and prostitution and stealing government funds. I mean, it was unbelievable what was going on in the sheriff's office back then. And so that was around the same time when we had the Brady Bill and all of this other nonsense was coming out. And so I've known about Sheriff Mack for a long, long time because we paid attention to those issues. And he was the first sheriff. He was joined by a few others, but he was the first sheriff to sue the federal government for usurping the authority of the county sheriff, and he won that in court. And so I've been following him a long time. As far as his organization goes, my understanding is what he is now doing is he's going around the country and training various sheriffs and their departments on what their constitutional responsibilities are. And if I get elected, if he's willing to come down and do a training for my deputies or at least my senior staff, I'm going to have him come down because, that's important. I really do believe that the role of law enforcement, and I don't even like the word law enforcement, my deputies are going to be peace officers. They're not going to be law enforcement officers. And the difference between the two is a law enforcement officer, if he sees you violate a law, he's going to enforce it. That means you're getting the ticket or you're getting arrested or whatever. What a peace officer does is a peace officer maintains the peace. If I can solve your situation without putting you in the system, that's what we're going to do. If I have to put you in the system because you're a super jerk or you've committed the kind of crime that requires you to go to jail, that's what we're going to do. We're not going to be. I'm not going to be having my deputies going around and harassing people for all of the Mickey Mouse nonsense that the government puts on our back. So that's going to be the difference. I'm a big fan of what is called community-oriented policing, and in a community-oriented policing environment, the deputies, when they have free time, they're going to get out of their cars and they're going to go out and they're going to meet people. If they're working in an area where there are businesses, I want my deputies to go in and talk to the business owner, talk to the manager, find out who's on duty. I mean, think about it like this. If you have a situation that goes on in your neighborhood and you know who your local deputy is and you have a working relationship, don't you think you're going to be more comfortable contacting that guy than calling in and talking to a stranger?
Of course. No, this is very good. I agree with you. And by the way, you seem like almost you got psychic powers because you anticipated all my questions. Okay, so great job for you about that. Because I was going to ask you, what is the difference between a peace officer and a law enforcement? And you got it there. And of course, I was going to ask you more about Sheriff Mack, and you seem very prepared and pretty much articulate on that one. Very good. Now, talking about what we have right now in Mohave County, okay? From the point of a constituent, that we live here, you live here too, in Fort Mohave County. If we had to be, we want to give, I don't want to say grade, but let's say you want to express your opinion about how the actual Mohave County Sheriff McCabe is running business. And this is not just because we try to throw mad at him, okay? It's just because, honestly, we need to see how you feel about his performing. Okay, since you are not just even a regular constituent, you are running for the same position. I would like to ask you this question: how would you consider the type of performance of the actual Mohave County Sheriff? If you had to be some sort of a teacher, how would you grade him?
Well, that's a tough question, and I'll. What I'm concerned about is not so much the past, but the future, and that's why I'm in the race. So,
I understand.
Any one of the
we can learn from our past to improve our future. I mean, that's why I don't want to bring that because we're going to be focusing on them. But I think it's important to learn from mistakes, so you can tell us how would you do better. That's the point.
Okay. My understanding is that inside the department. And this is something you're going to get from most police officers. Police officers have a tendency to be type A personalities. They're typically very macho. They're very aggressive, and that's understandable because of the kind of work that they do. And so when you take someone who has a long career in law enforcement, like any of the candidates who are running against me or even our current sheriff, they're going to be type A people. And so type A personalities are great on the street because you can't be pushover when you're dealing with a meth dealer. Those people got to stand and deliver when you tell them to, and if they don't, you punch them out. I mean, that's what you do on the street. But when you're in management, you don't want type A personalities in management. I mean, even General Patton, believe it or not, his thing was largely an act. When the cameras were off and the news media was not around, he was actually a very nice guy, and he treated his people great. Everybody who worked for him loved him. And so from a management standpoint, having the type A personality in there, butting heads with everybody, causes issues, and it has caused issues in the past. So that's not something that I lay particularly at Jim McCabe's feet, because I have personally never met the man, but my understanding is from other deputies that there's issues with that, and I'm going to say that is just because of the kind of people who typically get into law enforcement anyway, and so you have that issue at every agency. Mm-hmm. The other thing that I think has been going on in the department, and this has been going on forever, especially in Mohave County, is that the sheriff has not been making a good case to the county supervisors about how much money the actual sheriff's department needs in order to properly recruit, train, and maintain a professional force of deputies. The Mohave County Sheriff's Department is currently the lowest paid department in this area. If you throw a rock in any direction, you will hit the territory of another police department or agency that pays $4,000 to $5,000 more per year.
Wow!
And we're not in a vacuum. We have very high turnover rates because guys come through the academy, they come to work, they work for 2 or 3 years, they look over at Havasu and say, well, heck, I can pick up $5,000 a year, and they quit. And so every deputy that blows out costs the county about $75,000 in training.
Wow, that's a big money.
And that's not all the police academy. That's, a guy goes through the academy, he learns the basic job, and then you got to put him in a car with another field training officer for about a year's worth of time before that guy can step out and act as a deputy on his own. Mm-hmm. So he'll be with the department for almost a year and a half before you get any actual value out of that candidate. And then if that deputy quits 2 years later, you've basically flushed about $75,000 down a toilet. And so one of the challenges you have with police officers who then become sheriffs is they don't have the business and political skills that a salesman has in order to get a hold of the county supervisors and make them understand how the cow ate the cabbage. And when you're a person who is used to following orders, and let's face it, police departments are like military organizations. You do what you're told. And so to take somebody out of that environment and suddenly make them an executive, well, you end up with the situation we have, in that the county supervisors do not understand that the department is underpaid, that we're bleeding deputies, we're working these guys to death, and on top of that, we don't have enough deputies to begin with. Mm-hmm. So
let me stop you 1 second. Let me stop you 1 second, John. I want to, you made your point. That's good. I understand. Now, go back, dream for a moment, okay? It's here, election time. You are the new county sheriff, okay? And I think it would be kind of an achievement, because normally I don't remember any time soon that in the last, I think, 30, 40 years, maybe ever, I don't know. I didn't check in the historical records of Mohave County. Did we ever really had a sheriff, Mohave County sheriff elected not coming from law enforcement? I'm not sure. Maybe you can tell me. But let's say it happens. And I think it would be a great, interesting situation, because I never really heard that stuff. What would you do as priority in the first 6 months that you get into office?
The very first thing I would do is I would rewrite the Mohave County Sheriff's law enforcement certification guidelines, and I would decertify all federal agencies, with the exception of the agencies that we have a good working relationship with for drug enforcement and financial crimes enforcement. So most likely the FBI and DEA will regain or will remain certified to do law enforcement in the county, but everybody else is going to get decertified. There's going to be no law enforcement activity allowed by the federal government unless the agency has been properly trained and is following constitutional guidelines. Many of your listeners will probably know this, but a lot of people do not know that the Department of Education has a SWAT team. Mm-hmm. Do you think that the Department of Education needs a SWAT team? And if they do you think they're properly trained?
Yeah.
Not likely.
And so the FDA,
none of those agencies are going to be allowed. That'll be the very first thing I do once I'm sworn in. We're going to make sure that there's no nonsense going on in the county.
Mm-hmm. Okay, interesting. Go ahead, please continue.
Go ahead.
No, continue. Go ahead.
I was going to say the second thing that needs to be done is, depending on who the new county supervisors are, if we get a new crew of supervisors, some of the people in the race have already committed to me that we are going to sit down and we're going to get the deputies' pay straightened out, because they understand that the primary duty of government is to protect the citizens. And on the county level, that's the sheriff's role. So the money in the county needs to be shifted around to make sure that when your grandmother in Dolan Springs calls for an emergency because there's a peeper in her backyard, that I can get a deputy over there before the guy's kicked in her window and killed her. We cannot have people waiting 20, 30 minutes on emergency calls because we don't have enough deputies. And that's a problem with the county supervisors not understanding what their job is. So if we have some changes on that level, then some of the other people in the race have already committed to me that we're going to get the budget squared away. We're going to be able to get enough deputies. We're going to get them trained, and we're going to get them paid so they don't quit. The other thing that is important to me is, as a person who's been self-employed for 10 years, I have always done my own taxes. And at the end of the year, when I sit down and stroke a $20,000 bill to pay my taxes, it really pisses me off, especially when I see the amount of money that gets wasted. So I'm going to go all the way through the budget, bottom up. I'm going to bring in experts on cutting costs. One of the things that I have done as a civilian is have dealt with companies who specialize in doing that, and they don't charge unless they save you money. So I can bring in outside experts who are motivated to go through all of the contracts, to go through every aspect of every dime that the county spends as far as the sheriff department budget is concerned, and we're going to get it straightened out. So when we get more money, I promise you we are not going to piss it away. If I put the prisoners on beans and rice, that's going to save money, and I already plan on doing it. The jail is about 50% of the budget, and so I'm going to take the biggest scrutiny there, because once we get the bad guys in a cage, all we got to do is keep them there.
John,
so
let me stop you 1 second, John.
Cable TV and everything else.
Are you aware, first of all, how much the jail, the Mohave County jail, the new jail, cost us? How much was the final bill?
It was bazillions of dollars. I know that. But my understanding is the jail was actually paid for. I think that a lot of the equipment, here's another issue I actually have with the current sheriff. I called over there when I announced my run into the sheriff's office, and I said, look, I just want to talk to any deputy, command deputy, just somebody. I have a couple of questions. And they told me, no, you can't talk to anybody. That's against policy. And they took my phone number, and they said, someone with inside the department will call you back. Okay, well, it's been a month. Nobody's called me back. I thought that was pretty unusual. So just for my own edification, I called Yavapai County. All right, that's the next county over.
Yeah.
I was speaking with a senior command deputy within less than a minute. The guy talked to me for about 30 minutes. He answered all my questions about, from Yavapai's perspective. And I hung up the phone, and I thought, well, something must be going on over at Mohave County. If Yavapai will talk to me, and I'm running for Mohave County Sheriff, I can't get anybody on the phone over there, maybe something's going on. So as far as the specific numbers about what's being spent and all of that, I don't have that at my disposal because they don't want to talk to me, which is fine,
Anyway, this is something that I think to the county supervisors you should be able to find out, and it's something that I think you should really discover, because the last time I checked was about probably $70 million. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it was an astronomical number for Mohave County.
Yes.
And I would like to know really what type of gold or platinum did they use for the handle for the doors, because I can build a town probably for half of the price. Okay. Anyway, something interesting.
I can tell you this along those lines. One of the other things we're going to be doing is auditing past expenses. And if I see any monkey business going on where there's not going to be any slap on the wrist crap from my department. I absolutely hate public corruption. I hate white envelopes being passed underneath tables, and any of that stuff that comes to my attention while I'm sheriff is going to be prosecuted. We're not going to play any games. These public servants are there to serve, not to fleece. And if I get a chance to hook any of them up for any public corruption, I'm going to do it. And I don't care if they're at the state level, the federal level, or the county level. I'm not going to put up with it. I'm not a politician. I'm running because the sheriffs in this country have not been doing their jobs. They have not been hooking these people up. And I'm going to do it.
Okay. John, excellent.
They're terrified of me. The Republican Party has already asked me to drop out of the race.
Really? Why? When happened and
yeah,
why?
I've had more than one phone call where they've said, yeah, you're not doing too well. Maybe you should get out now. And like, guys, we haven't even had the primary. What are you talking about? I'm not dropping out.
Wow.
They don't want me in the race.
Wow, interesting.
They want one of those people that they know very well who's going to look the other way. So, hey, that's not me.
Can I ask you something? You don't have to answer, of course, it's privacy, but any name, because every Republican who calls you, normally they elected people, and I know because I used to be a national delegate for the Republican Party, and before, of course, I became independent. Any name you want to throw out there so I can call him?
I'll tell you what, I don't want to do that, and here is why.
That's fine.
I don't know the intention of the people who asked me to get out of the race.
Okay.
It may have been that they honestly think I can't win anyway, and I'm wasting my time, or there may be something else. All I can tell you is that the conversations did happen, and I'm not dropping out of the race.
Perfect. Okay. I always say this is an open show for everybody. And when you're running for public office or you're already elected, I don't care if you're a precinct committeeman or district leader or whatever, chairman, this is public business. We're not talking about secrecy here. So that's good. Perfect. Now let's talk about something that probably you're familiar. The last few years, I'm sure you're familiar, the federal government has been trying, and I say successfully, to militarize the local law enforcement. I hate the word too, by the way. I believe peace officer should be the right word. Anyway, through the DOD, Department of Defense program called also 1033. And we have an example. I went publicly, I don't know if you follow on the news, 1 year ago or so, with the actual Sheriff McCabe, the big saga or drama about the MRAP. We found out by accident that we had at least one military armored vehicle sitting at the sheriff's office. And, as a constituent myself, I was there asking more information. And as happened to you, I was pretty much ignored for more than a month after many phone calls and emails and things like that. Finally, I had to go through the public letters and articles through the media, local newspapers, and finally I was able to get some sort of a very generic answer.
Can I interject something really quick?
Of course. Go ahead, please.
That's not going to go on in my department. We are going to open things up. So as long as you're not asking questions about an ongoing investigation where we're not going to be able to talk about it, if someone calls me and wants to know why we're doing something, they're going to get an answer and they're going to get called back. This government secrecy bullcrap drives me absolutely insane.
Yeah, there was not really nothing of secret we found out. At the end of the day, it was very simple. This is a public a piece of hardware. We're talking about a military armored vehicle that is being given through this federal program called 1033 from the Department of Defense. And the only question I had, me with many other, constituents, was, first of all, why do we need an MRAP? And more important, what type of agreement we have with the federal government? Because nothing is free. We know very well when the federal government gives us something, that, by the way, we already pay with our federal tax dollar. At the end of the day, there's always some string attached, okay? So we wanted to know some sort of what exactly means for us, how much costs to us, and more important, what type of use do you forecast to use this piece of equipment? Normally, it's used in a military war operations. So finally, I was able to get a contract, but it was even a contract because it wasn't signed. It was from another police department. It was even from Mohave County. It was from Payson. And when I asked where is ours, nothing was given. But anyway, on this generic Payson Police Department agreement, there was something that was pretty disturbing that was pretty much probably was not even read by the sheriff at the time, that the Mohave County Sheriff Department to use, to keep this over 700,000 armored vehicle, they must, that means us with the taxpayer, we must use the vehicle for 1 year at least, okay, and must be placed in use within 1 year of receipt. And that's right there. I say, how are we going to keep this in use to justify it? There was no answer. The only answer was this is some sort of a tool that we need in case there is some sort of to defend property. And I found it kind of disturbing, even stupid, honestly, an insult to intelligence. Anyway, after all this drama and after a few letters to the editors, Sheriff McCabe decided to give this piece of hardware to another county facing the southern border, I guess. And I think maybe it was more appropriate use. And they're probably looking for something smaller. I don't know exactly how they're going to get it. But anyway, so my point is, how would you consider to have this sort of agreements with the federal government, like this program with the Department of Defense called the 1033? Would you comply with that? Would you go for that? Or would you find other avenues to find the right hardware for our officers, deputies?
Okay, so this is going to be a long answer. There is an appropriate role for the federal government in national defense. In fact, that's their primary role. So giving a sheriff's department a heavy-duty truck or an expensive sniper rifle or something like that because DOD purchased too many, I don't have a problem with that. It's actually much better than just parking the trucks out in the desert and letting them rot apart. So from using the money for the taxpayers' benefits, that's a good thing. So if the federal government wants to give me a Sherman tank and there's no strings attached to it, then yes, I will park it in our motor pool, and just in case Russian paratroopers come down from the sky, we have a tank, at least in Mohave County, ready to go. So that's kind of an extreme example, but you have to understand the federal government has already bought all those vehicles. They bought them for the war, and they are essentially surplus. Now, if it comes with the kind of strings attached that says I have to allow the FDA to raid milk farms in my county, then no, they can take their equipment and stick it. But my understanding is with that equipment, they are giving the equipment away with the expectation that you actually use it for something, but I don't believe that the strings attached are that you use it to drive over cattle ranchers' houses and then burn their cattle to death in support of the BLM. So from that standpoint, any equipment you get that might possibly serve the county that is essentially free is probably a good thing. Many people don't know this, but that under Arizona law, the sheriff is the captain of the militia in his county. Mm-hmm. The militia is the actual first line of defense for the country in case of insurrection or invasion or something like that. If you saw the movie Red Dawn, and it's not likely to happen, but if it were to happen, the role of the sheriff is to no longer do law enforcement, but to organize the militia and repel the invasion. That's a statutory responsibility of the sheriff. Now, if he doesn't have anything but 9mm pistols and his standard cruiser vans, well, that fight's going to be over with really friggin' quick. So from a national defense standpoint, it makes sense to have that equipment on the ground in control of the sheriff, because your sheriff is a local elected official, and he's not likely to use his Sherman tank to drive over his constituents' houses. So
I understand.
I don't know. Does that answer your question,
yes,
or do I sound like a total nut?
No, I think you're completely right on this one, I tell you, and I would do the same, honestly. Of course, I'm not running for sheriff. People probably don't care what I think, but the idea is this one. If there are no string attached, that means that this all is going to be for the defense of our community with the sheriff, who is an elected person, not just some bureaucrat coming from another part of the world. Yes, I think more is better, because at this point we need to start to think about that. There are different scenarios. And by the way, you weren't that crazy when we were talking about Russian troops or Chinese troops, because just to let you know, I'm sure you're familiar, for the first time in American history, we have Chinese troops now in Hawaii, and they're training also in the state of New York. We have Russian troops that they have, Russia had signed an agreement with FEMA a couple years ago, I think it was 2013, and you can read the article on the New American with all the sources, that the federal government, FEMA, the federal emergency government, that when they have some sort of a national disaster, natural disaster, or even just anything that they can declare national emergency, even an economic crisis, now they have an agreement that Russian troops, they can be used on U.S. soil for keeping the peace or to stop the dissenters or whatever they want to call it, the domestic terrorists. So I tell you, this is no more something that people should laugh too much because it's happening. So I agree with you. But
you are aware that President Obama has put the stop to the DOD sharing those kinds of tools with county sheriffs. In fact, he's been pulling that hardware back.
Yeah, but also it's kind of an interesting thing because he does one thing, at the same time is arming all the is federalizing the police, as you well know, and he's created this international program of international police under the United Nations to have this police force for, let's say, in the biggest cities. Now they did already a test. So they are disarming the county sheriff, but they are super arming all the different offices of police who are already pretty much being federalized. So it's kind of almost, I see the people on the other side or whatever side they want to call themselves, they think Obama is such a great guy and he tries to stop the militarization of police. At the same time, what he's doing is exactly enforcing the promises that he gave us during the election. Let me play one more time. I'm sure you're familiar with this speech here.
We cannot continue to rely only on our military in order to achieve the national security objectives that we've set. We've got to have a civilian national security force that's just as powerful, just as strong, just as well-funded.
I mean, you remember this speech, John?
Yeah, was that Hitler or Obama?
Yeah, pretty much his cousin, okay? I mean, this is the story. I mean, this guy is exactly doing all the things he told us. And yes, he's removing this program for the sheriffs, but as I said, it's also the same Homeland Security that I'm sure you're familiar. They purchased billions of rounds. I lost the count for hollow point rounds, not for training. This is pretty much for final purpose to killing people.
Yeah, they're for killing people.
Yeah, exactly. So we have a plan here that is laid down in front of our eyes. So I tell you, I'm kind of concerned because I see things, as you mentioned before, is going to happen, not just for the ranchers, but it could happen tomorrow for everybody, for people who want to homeschool or people that want to do not want to comply with these new EPA Nazistic, I call them, regulations. They can tell you if you can have a wood stove or not, or they can tell you
Well, not constitutionally they can't.
Exactly. Technically.
Okay,
but
the federal government only has 10 powers, so all of this BS that they come up with that is outside of those 10 powers, the county sheriff can stop the enforcement actions. And that's why it is so important for people to stop electing cops and start electing people who are paying attention to what's going on in this country. The EPA can write all the rules they want, but unless you are engaged in some kind of interstate commerce, the federal government has no regulatory authority over you. Now, does that mean that I'm going to allow a company to dump poison into the Colorado River? No, it doesn't. But I'm also not going to let the EPA come and take away your wood-burning stove for your cabin up in the Wallapies and have your family freeze to death. There has to be somebody in the system that has some common sense who's paying attention to what's going on. And in the American system, that person is supposed to be the county sheriff, and they're not doing it.
Very good, very good. I think, you answer pretty much the most important questions that normally I don't say the listeners of this show, because I have several listeners. I also have listeners that they hate the guts out of me and they enjoy listening to me. That's fine. And I hope maybe we can educate them. That's the goal. I'm not trying here to be right. I'm just trying to bring you facts. And maybe, the point is, even people that normally they think they are on the other side, I have no sides. They call themselves left. I am not even right. I believe that there is at this point a right or wrong, freedom or tyranny. But think about, guys, think if you now, next election, you're going to have a super right-wing neocon president that is going to enforce things that you don't like. Guess what? You wish you had the right sheriff to protect your rights, because it's supposed to be about everybody's rights. The Bill of Rights doesn't say you're a Democrat, you're a Republican. No, the Bill of Rights, they're for me human rights that we all deserve. We all have those rights. Listen, let me tell you something else. You've been very prepared. You almost anticipated many of my questions. For example, I was going to bring you the militia, the Title 26, Article 2, Arizona Revised Statute. There is as you said before, we have it in our Constitution. We have it in our state laws. And the beautiful thing that everybody in this state of Arizona, between the age of 18 and 45, I will remember, we are automatically part of the militia, with few exceptions, of course, right. Judges. So the sheriff role, it's very important because you could deputize a great number of people without the cost to create, of course, a more secure and safer environment from all type of crimes, and that's very amazing.
Yeah, one of the things I would like to do is Mohave County is full of retired cops, and they're usually from major agencies. We got LAPD guys and a lot of California trained retirees out here, and there's quite a few cold cases I'm aware of that can't get worked because, and this isn't the sheriff's fault per se, he doesn't have enough deputies. You have to help the people who are alive as opposed to try and figure out who killed somebody a year ago, and if you only have 86 deputies, well, the cold cases go unsolved. And what I would like to do is deputize a bunch of retired officers who I know are bored to death because I've had some of them talk to me already, and set up a cold case posse and bring in as many guys as are necessary to start investigating some of these old cases and start looking at some of the things that have been going on in the county that I'm aware of and I can't comment on, but to have a set of experienced eyes look at them, and most of these guys will do it on a volunteer basis if we pay their expenses because they're already pulling retirements. Wow. And so I want to use that resource. I don't know if that's what you were driving at or if you were thinking about something else.
I mean, that's a great idea. Exactly. The point, when you have set some policies and some training with, of course, accountabilities, and we have already here this potential to have the organized and also the unorganized militia. And, of course, you can create your own posse or whatever you want to call it. And also there is the unorganized militia that, of course, they are always willing, for what I know, to work with our elected sheriff. But they are also, it's called the people of the community organizing themselves for scenarios of the common defense.
In the event of a county emergency, all of the militia will be under the sheriff. And so it's very important that you pick the right sheriff. By Arizona statutory law, if the sheriff deputizes you, you're deputized. And, that's the law that's on the books currently. So if you guys make the mistake of electing some fascist goofball and he deputizes you to go out and round up all the Christians and shove them in boxcars, you're going to do it or they're going to shoot you in the head. That's what happens when you have an emergency. So you had better make sure you elect the right sheriff. And I'll tell you this for sure, I don't know where the other people stand, but if the order comes down to start force injecting people with Gardasil or start stuffing boxcars full of Christians or whatever, that's not going to happen in Mohave County. Not while I'm alive. In fact, I'll call out the militia to oppose it.
Very good. Question. I'm sure you seem like a very aware person. Let me throw at you some keywords, and probably you already know that, but I don't want to take it for granted. Are you familiar with the United Nations plan called also Agenda 21?
Yes.
Okay. And what would you do, or at least what would have you done if you were the sheriff, in this case, of, let's say, Burns, Oregon? I'm sure you're familiar with the situation with the Ammon, Bundy, and, of course, Lavoy Finicum, that I would like to ask you also, according to your eyes, as a person, as a human being who has two eyes and a brain, regardless that we have, for sure, it's an alleged crime, but everybody's innocent until proven guilty. But how, first of all, do you feel about that video that we've seen of Lavoy Finicum being killed? From your point of view, that was a justifiable use of force, or was something more? Let's start with that.
Okay. On my website, ploughforsheriff.com, there is a link that is labeled, I believe, the Lavoy Finicum death video. And I personally went through, took that video, and ran it in slow motion to see if the story that the FBI had put out was true or not. My assessment is their story is total bullcrap. That man was tased and then shot after he was on the ground. The stop was illegal from the get-go. You are not allowed to, let me rephrase this. When you do a traffic stop appropriately, it is okay for law enforcement officers to block a road. However, when they do it, they have to leave someone a safe egress. They cannot design the roadblock in such a way that you have no choice but to trash your vehicle into a snowbank or collide with the vehicles. That's called creating a dangerous situation and not preventing one. It's already been through the courts. It's not allowed. Number one, the way that roadblock was set up in such a way that somebody was going to get killed. It was designed that way on purpose. That roadblock was set up after a blind turn on snowy, slippery road conditions where there was not enough room for Lavoie to stop that vehicle as he approached the roadblock if he had wanted to. That is very important. So right from the get-go, the whole setup was improper. Now, I can't speak to the motives of the officers involved with this. Right now, we don't know if they were FBI, if they were Oregon State Patrol. Some people are saying there's even mercenaries on the ground up there when this was going on. I don't have that insight because they're not talking. But I can tell you this, the way that roadblock was set up was not a police roadblock, it was a military roadblock. That's the kind of crap that they were doing in Iraq and Afghanistan, and at military roadblocks, you kill people, you don't arrest them.
Exactly. No, it's very important.
It's no surprise to me that the two witnesses in the car, if people want to get on those and see what the live witnesses said, both witnesses said they were shooting at the vehicle before Lavoie got out, number one. Both witnesses said he never drew his gun. Both witnesses said he was shot repeatedly while he was on the ground. Both witnesses said the car was shot up. We have not seen pictures of the car, so I can't verify the veracity of what those two witnesses said. But I have seen the video, and you can see sparks flying off the car as something is hitting it repeatedly. The windshield was shot up, and Lavoie certainly is dead. When he gets out of the car, he gets out of the vehicle, his hands are in the air. There is a officer or trooper or mercenary of some kind who is waiting just behind his bumper, crouched down. As soon as Lavoie crosses the bumper of his car, he gets shot in the side. That's when they say he reached for a gun. No, he was shot in the ribs. This officer then gets up and walks away and tries to seek cover. Another man comes running out of the bushes, and I believe that the man who came out of the bushes was actually trying to save Lavoie's life. That man was probably just a cop. He tased him. If you watch the thing real closely, he comes running out with his left hand extended. He points it at Lavoie. Lavoie drops like a ton of bricks. Then he drops what is ever in his hand, and he starts fumbling around on his right side, which looks like he was trying to pull his sidearm. While Lavoie was on the ground, he was shot several times. So what I think might have happened, I'm not going to say what I think might have happened because that's not appropriate. I think you got to. I can tell you this: if that was my department and those were my deputies, some people would be getting fired, and if what I think happened actually did happened, then some people would be on trial for murder.
Wow. Okay. Very important, very strong words, and I am glad that you have the courage to express yourself, because I know that many people in law enforcement in this community, they were completely not just silent but cheering it up. And as I said, after all, everybody's
a couple of the guys in the race. When I point that strong point of view out. And by the way, I'm backing it up. You can go on my website and look at the video. I'll show you exactly what happened.
No, I see that.
I don't need to see the reports. I can see what happened.
Exactly.
And
John,
when I point that out at the sheriff's meetings, the other guys just about, crap themselves. The expressions on their face are priceless. And that's why you don't want a cop as sheriff. Because after 20 years on the department, they see everybody in the civilian world as their enemy, and the only people they talk and trust are cops.
Can you mention the names?
That doesn't make them bad people. That's just the way it is. I'm sorry, go ahead. I was getting excited.
No, you're doing great, great information. This is not because I'm trying to gossip here. I don't want to be National Enquirer, but I always ask you the question. And of course, you have a fifth. You don't need to answer. But I'm very curious to know who were doing these faces, because I would like to call them and see why they were smiling or smirking about this. Can you give the names out if you want?
No, I'm going to pass on that. Okay. I'm not a mudslinger. All I can say is that if you know anybody who's been a cop for 20 years, if you question the actions of any other cop in their presence, you'll get the same reaction. And I'm totally pro-police, so don't let the audience
John,
misunderstand me.
I have 2 minutes left.
I am pro-professional police who defend the Constitution and go after real bad guys. Lavoy Finicum didn't have a record. That guy hadn't even had a speeding ticket, as far as I know, in over 20 years. He was as big a Boy Scout as you can possibly be.
Yes.
We don't treat Boy Scouts in this country like Bonnie and Clyde.
Exactly. John,
Bonnie and Clyde get treated like Bonnie and Clyde.
Let me stop you, John. Let me stop you 1 second, Ollie. Are you there? 1 second, Ollie, John. I need to stop you because time is running short. I want to plug the last question, okay? We have about 1 minute, okay? And I want to ask you this that I would ask to everybody, just to be on record, okay? Anything that we should know, okay? Because, and I'm not talking about your personal private life, you know, if you have any affair or whatever. This is your personal life. I'm talking about something about your past that maybe we should know. I don't know, domestic violence case, or maybe something that was concerning for the position that you may be elected. I give you 1 minute. You got the floor.
My understanding is I'm the cleanest person in the race. I've never smoked a joint. I've never been charged or prosecuted with anything. I've worked for the government twice, and that's about the worst you can say about me. And one of the jobs when I was at the government, I was a radio operator for the Department of Defense on board U.S. oil tankers. That requires a top-secret clearance. Top-secret clearances are not handed out, you know, like candy. They do a real investigation. They talk to your neighbors, your relatives, your past girlfriends. And so to get one of those, you got to be cleaner than Jesus, almost. And, you know, so that's me. And if the people from Mohave County want to help me get elected, they need to get out there and get signatures, because I'm not even going to be on the ballot if I don't get 500 signatures. So they need to see Walt at the upholstery shop, or download my signature form. It's right on my website, and get their friends' names, addresses, and phone numbers on that nomination form, or they're not even going to have a chance to vote for me.
Last time, give again your website, please, John. Go ahead.
It's ploughforsheriff.com, PLOUGHFOR, sheriff.com.
Perfect, perfect. Okay, Lisa, this was exciting, and I'm very excited to have all of you guys running for any position, especially for county sheriff position. Don't go away. We're ready for hour number 2. We talk about guns and training. And don't forget, if you want to support the show, go to zanna.us. You can download any of my songs, and in this way, this show always will be free, in the means that we can say whatever we want. Don't go away.
He's a songwriter, a poet, a rifleman,
I'm not afraid,
and a constitutional activist.
I'm not afraid,
Italian by birth,
I'm not afraid,
American by choice. Gianluca Zanna.
I'm not afraid.
And his new CD, Love, Guns, and Freedom. 16 powerful songs on one CD from the heart of a patriot. For download or to order the CD, go to www.lovegunsfreedom.com. That's www.lovegunsfreedom.com. Lyrics for your mind, music for your heart.
There we go, guys. You're listening to Love, Guns, and Freedom with Luca Zanna on KTOX, 1340 AM in all United States, the FM network. By the way, people ask me, what is this United States of the FM network? Let me tell you exactly what it is. First of all, it's one of my websites. Yes, I have several websites. UnitedStates.fm. More important, it's a network of other websites. And every one of you listeners who has a website, you can have my show for free. Not only for free, I want you to propagate it. I want you to share it. I want you to copy and paste it. So I can send you the script that you can automatically be updated with my show every time the show is out there. Why? Because this is the best way we can share this information. Through a network of people, free individuals. You don't need to be CNN. We don't need to be one of these corporate media. We can do it with the information through the internet till we have it. Let's use it. So if you have a website, you know, you talk about freedom, you talk about guns, you talk about love, you talk about humanity, talking about, you know, standing up for our rights, send me an email. Go to my website, lovegunsfreedom.com, and my email is there on the top page, and I'll send you the link that you can just copy and paste on your page, and automatically you will become like a radio, broadcasting my show 24/7, and every time the new show is up there, you got it. That's it. Simple as that. So this is United States of the FM Network. Now, this is the hour about guns, and we don't talk just about guns. We talk about different things. Of course, last Sunday we had an incredible interview with my friend Roy Ward that I never met in person, and many of you guys, you know, I don't know you in person, but I consider you brothers or sisters, because even if we talk over the phone or even we talk through the internet, we know each other, we share the same cause, we dream the same dreams, we fear the same fears, and we try to do our little part. So I call you brother, sister. Now, the idea is this one. This hour for me, it's a tool to try to share information that probably could be outlawed in many other countries, and in this country maybe pretty soon. So till I have this microphone, I will use it. As I said, it's not just about learning how to shoot. It's also learning how to have a mindset to be prepared for what's already here, not what's coming. Talking about resisting tyranny. That's the bottom line. So we will not talk about on the show about the latest gun from Shots, the show or, you know, the fancy holster. I couldn't care less. Seriously. I don't care if you have a slingshot in your hands. All I care that you have a good heart. You're a person with morals. That means you're not an evil person and you stand for this republic. Then if you have a Mosin Nagant for $99 or $3,000 AR-15, I couldn't care less. But at the same time, there is more than just guns. And we will go today. Today I have incredible news to share about a revolutionary rifle I'm going to share with you. I've been planning about this for the last 6 months. I want to talk about preparation. There are 3 basic foundations in every type of military operation. And we are not soldiers, don't get me wrong. Some of you, of course, are, or at least you've been veterans. But we are citizens. And I tell you, what we used to be during this republic, when we used to be a republic, during the foundation, we did not have a standing army, was the militia. Every law-abiding person, every person between the age of 16 and 45 in the state of Arizona automatically is part of the militia. And I have a guy with me today, in a few seconds, that is an expert. He wrote books about it, and he's been studying more than I do. But it is not just about having a rifle and be able to shoot straight. That's a good start. It's also about to communicate. So the 3 legs that every infantry should be based upon is shooting, moving, and communicating. Now, how do we communicate? And before we go ahead, I'm not saying that we have to do any type of violent act. So don't start to get too excited, you know, your little, wannabe Gestapo thugs there. Oh, he's trying to provoke some sort of a violence. No, I'm talking about something that is protected by my First Amendment. It's talking about educational purposes. We're talking about preparation for law-abiding citizens to stand up for our rights for this country, this republic, against you, scum, foreign and domestic. Anyway, I'm kind of excited today. Let me bring the guest in before I talk too much over myself. Glenn Davis from Williams, Arizona. Are you there?
I'm here.
Okay, I think my rant was pretty much done for now. First of all, how are you today?
I'm doing pretty good today.
Okay, you hear the news. I sound kind of frantic today because I have good people that I know in person, that I met, and I know that have done nothing wrong, and I know that some of them, they've been killed, and some of them, they're probably maybe already dead. They are somewhere in some federal prison probably. And without due process, really, so far, there is no foundation or anything, but it's happening. I really believe we are living right now in the first stage of this soft tyranny. Is becoming harder and harder, and this sort of a National Defense Authorization Act now is sticking up. So I'm here to try to share some information with you. You are a veteran on top. I would like to remind everybody exactly a little background about you. You go ahead, introduce yourself now. But the point is I want to share some good information about communications with you and exactly about ham radio, something that we should all know a little bit. First of all, Glenn, give us a short story about your background, who you are and where you've been.
Well, I was in the Navy for, I'm a retired Navy veteran. And like many people, I basically didn't. The Constitution, I kind of knew about it, and, the book reports I read and stuff. It was actually when I got out and started studying the Second Amendment for a friend of mine that I really began to understand, hey, there's something wrong here. But so I did study a lot on the militia in particular. And what most people don't realize is the militia is not just about shooting, tyranny and all that stuff. We're supposed to protect our citizens. And that includes peaceful stuff, such as we had a storm in Williams a while back, and many elderly were trapped. They couldn't get to their medical appointments and stuff. So part of the militia is to go in, dig them out and get them to their medical appointments, and things like that. So it's not just about, there's all sorts of peaceful uses for the militia. And in the Revolutionary time, they were called the Committees of Safety. They didn't actually use the term militia. So
exactly, was it?
And that's exactly what it was, to protect your neighborhood, your counties, and then your state in that basic order. Neighborhood watches, whether they choose to believe it or not, are conducting militia operations because it's a citizen's force,
Exactly.
But anyway, it's in communications. Again, not everybody can carry a weapon. Not everybody can, has that fortitude to do what must be done at times. So there are other options. There's medical. We need people who can perform medical operations, and communications, like you're saying. And this is not just militia. In fact, the ham world has emergency, and it has from the beginning, it has emergency groups set aside to provide communications in a natural disaster when all other communications have failed. Cell phones aren't going to work sometimes during a natural disaster. So you can get to the ham operators, and they're usually set up reasonably.
Let's talk 1 second exactly
available.
What is a ham radio, because I know many of you guys, you're already expert, you already may know, but I'm trying to reach out the person that probably said, he wants to learn, she wants to learn, but I have no idea what's going on, has no idea. What is a ham radio, first of all?
Good point. Back in the days when radio first started, people wanted to get on and talk and do Morse code and all the things that have been done all along, And so they developed it wasn't the FCC at the time. I don't remember what it was, but it was the communications, government communications forum. But they set aside frequencies for broadcasters such as yourself for news, information, and entertainment. And then they set aside private frequencies for people to talk to one another. And they called that was called amateur radio, vice professional. And there's a bunch of stories on how the word ham got into it, but basically it's also called ham radio. But the idea is that, like I say, it's used for personal communication, just like you'd use your cell phone. And in fact, you don't even, if you went and got a technician license, for example, you don't even have to buy a radio. They have so many facets of amateur radio out there available that are just, that blew me away. And I'm a technician. I've been a tech for a year, and when I started getting into ham radio last November and got my license, I found out there's so many different things. One's called Internet Radio Link Project, and you can actually hook a radio to the Internet and talk to different repeaters and stuff over the Internet, and vice versa. They can use your radio and broadcast out. It's There's so many things to the ham. We couldn't go through everything in one session.
Yeah,
but
no, I understand. Let's talk one
we'll
second.
go for
First
the
of all,
important stuff.
exactly, yeah. The important things, there are different levels for the ham radio. So let's say how many levels you got. And let's spell it out. You need to pass a test. You need to have a license to operate the ham radio. That means to broadcast. You can listen to it without a license. Correct me if I'm wrong. I know that is pretty sure, but I want to double check. But you cannot broadcast unless you've been licensed. Correct?
Correct. You have to. In fact, you have to be licensed to use the General Mobile Radio Service, GMRS, as it's called, that you buy but that license is $90 with no test. There is a move by the FCC to get rid of that, but it's not gone yet. And I learned that $90 later. The FRS channels are family radio service that you get on those little radios. Anybody can use them.
Like a walkie-talkie, like the Motorola walkie-talkie, 36 miles. What is that exactly?
Right. And Citizens Band Radio also no longer needs a license.
Okay.
The problem with the FRS and GMRS and the 36-mile range, if you were on a mountaintop, each on a mountaintop with no obstructions, you might, if you're lucky and the propagation works, you might get 30 miles. Mm-hmm. But more than likely, you're not going to get more than 2 or 3 miles without a repeater.
Yeah.
So, and the same with the radios we're going to talk about, the Baofangs. They run from the handheld type, which we call handy talkies, and we don't call them walkie-talkies in the ham world.
Yeah.
Just so you're not embarrassed when you talk to somebody. But they call them HTs or handy talkies, and they range from 1 watt to 7 or 8 watts. Mm-hmm. And they can get you quite a bit of range. I've had some success, pretty good success with the ones I've used. And there's
this one, just to understand, to be clear, so people don't, sometimes I just try to play idiot because I am an idiot. I don't know everything. For example, these handheld ham radios, we're talking about this. They need still a license to be operated, correct?
Right. Anything that operates on the ham frequencies that are set aside by the FCC, you need a license.
But you can listen. We could have on one, and I can listen without interfering, without broadcasting, without license, correct?
Oh, yeah. I have one set up as a police scanner, an emergency scanner. I can scan all the emergency frequencies in my area. I have it set so I can't transmit on those. Mm-hmm. You can set them up, and mine is set up to receive the NOAA channels, weather channels, which is free and open. And then I also, on mine, I have it set up so I can transmit on certain frequencies to certain.
Mm-hmm. It's like we own a car. I can have a car parked in my, parking lot. It doesn't mean that I need to have a license because I'm not driving it. That's the bottom line. So that's just to be clear. So everyone who wants to have the opportunity to listen what's going on. And I think the ham radio has a lot of potential in case we have a breakdown of communications, especially the internet. We can have a chance to communicate much, much more bigger distances, and especially to listen and to be informed. So that would be a good first step to have one of these little handheld, this radio that you talk about is exactly the brand. Let me see if I remember, because my brain, this one I have myself, the Baofang, whatever it's called, right?
Right. And in fact, just to have one that you can monitor the ham frequencies. You're allowed to listen to any frequencies. Mm-hmm. In fact, they even have an FM radio button, but they don't have AM, so they can't turn on KTOX. Sorry, you have to. Okay. But you have to listen to the internet or on the radio. But you can set them up to listen to the ham frequencies for emergencies, because that's where likely you're going to get your first information.
Exactly.
The TV and other radio sources. TV will probably be gone. Radio sources, let's say all those are gone. Ham radios, somebody's going to have one that works. and there's a lot of different methods of communication that we could go over, but mainly we're talking about voice.
Yes, correct me if I'm wrong. The ham radio, you have a chance also to receive a shortwave frequencies with the ham radio.
Yes, we in some model in the high frequency range, not with the handhelds that you have, like the Baofangs and stuff like that. The Baofangs, and there's others like Alanco, I believe it is, ICOM, Yaesu. Yaesu is a real popular model.
Yeah, I have one Yaesu. I like Yaesu.
And they get more expensive, but the thing is, they operate in what we call the 2 meter range, or hold on a second. I should have had my notes ready, but anyway, about 144 megahertz to 148, and they operate in the UHF range from about 420 to 450. The Baofangs operate a little bit out of that area, I think, but you can only transmit on those areas. And then, of course, there's certain frequencies in that frequency range that are set aside just for Morse code, so you can't transmit phone or voice in that area.
You know what I like about the idea of short waves, especially if we have a collapse of society or some sort of a scenario, could be like martial law or emergency, you're able to listen, and I say listen, from broadcast from all over the world. I have, through my shortwave and even through one of these little, Yaesu that I have, sometimes I get from China. I was able to get the radio from the Vatican. I mean, it's amazing stuff. In the middle of nowhere, Arizona, on top of some mountains, I'm able to listen to what's going on in Italy. That's if the right conditions, the right time of the day and the year. So that's amazing. I think it's a great investment, even if you don't want to become a technician, if you don't want to pass the test, and of course you don't want to broadcast. Just as a listener, I think it's a great opportunity. Now, talking about the different levels, you are a technician. I remember because I was going to try to do the test. I just didn't have time, and then I tell you why I didn't do it. But how many levels you have to become a ham radio operator?
Actually, I have the top license, so I can use any frequency and any mode available on the FCC. You start out, basically it's a $15 fee to take the test, and you can pass as many as you can. So if you want to study for the technician in general and amateur extra, and you can pass them all, you just pay $15 and you got the highest. It starts out as technician level, and then you get then you can try for the general license, and then the top is amateur extra.
Wow.
Now, before they had two other, they had a novice and I can't remember what the other license is, but if you have obtained those licenses, they're still good. And you can pay the $15 to take the test, but most people have just kept their old license because it's good, and they can keep renewing it. Once you get a license, you just have to renew it in the time period. You don't have to pay another fee.
I just a question. I
it's
know
good
that,
for 10 years.
What is exactly government claiming authority, ownership of the airwaves? We understand that. This is pretty much what happens also with the AM and FM. You need to go there and they tell you if you can operate or not. Now, when it comes down to ham radio, okay, you do a test that I understand because I got the books, I studied the books, and I tell you why I didn't do the test. You pretty much show that you have some knowledge about the basics of how to broadcast and exactly all the things that you should know as a broadcaster, okay? And then you pass this test, and then they give you the holy word and the blessing. You pay the $15 or whatever, and you become an operator. But exactly the purpose of to give you a license. Why you think in the ham radio it's so important that the government must give you this license? And they can
like you said, the licenses theoretically tell the government and other ham radio operators what level of expertise you should have. So And even though I'm an amateur extra, I haven't operated on HF yet. So, and I'm working on getting like a Morse code, what they call QRP, or low power Morse code, receiver transmitter. But it's theoretically tells the government what level of knowledge you have to operate. And they've licensed since, TV and radio began. And it's mainly to make sure that, I think the best way to put it is probably to keep from interfering with in other words, if you have two people who want to start an FM station, they can't be on the same frequency.
Oh, I understand that part.
And the
I understand.
FCC is there to stop them.
Yeah.
The same sort of thing with the ham operators. Yeah. They want to make sure you're not going to interfere with somebody else.
Okay. I mean, technically, let's say I have a ham radio, okay? It's not like I'm a radio station that's my frequency. I am, 1340 AM. That's my frequency. Leave me alone. I understand the government tried to put some sort of space and boundaries so there is no anarchy. That's fine. I'm with that for a moment. But the point is, when you have ham radio, you don't have like a frequency, do you? I don't think so.
No, there's no assigned frequency except in an event of an actual emergency.
Okay.
In other words, in my area, there are certain repeaters and frequencies set aside that if we had an emergency, I could not talk on those except for an actual emergency.
I see.
And part of there's a group called American Radio Relay League, which was started basically when ham radio started, getting licenses, and they work closely with the government. So it's the only group that actually has. I mean, if you go to the EPA and say, I don't think this chemical or these lights are safe, they're going to tell you to pack sand.
Yeah.
The FCC, on the other hand, when the ARL or ham radio's operators talk with them, they communicate and they try and arrange something for, fair for the people and the government. And also they are responsible for making sure that, like, for example, Canada and Mexico, we can't operate on certain frequencies or ranges in certain areas so we don't interfere with Canada.
I understand.
And so forth. So they do the international thing too.
My only problem, I tell you what it is, it's like a gun, okay? Of course, if the government already knows how many guns you have. But if you have a chance, it would be nice that your guns are all private. Now, I understand that, you don't want to live in a Wild West. That means when you have a radio, you need to broadcast, you need to have some basic rules of etiquette and decency. That means also we keep not interfering with each other, especially if you're in the broadcast business, But it's kind of scary when you have, for example, your name out there. I know when you become an operator, your name is public. You have a public license. You're posted everywhere on the website. I can go, for example, in the city of Williams, and there is public information. I can see how many operators they have. So
if you go to radioreference.com, it lists every ham operator in this area. If you go to the FCC website, you can search my call sign, KG7YDJ, and it gives you the information on my license, but I don't want to say it gives you the address.
Okay, but doesn't matter. All I need to know is your name, and I find out. But my point is, if I was a tyrannical government, or let's say if I was some foreign troops, invading this country, and there is an emergency. Let's think about Katrina, without getting too fancy. I'm not even going to Red Dawn scenario. That pretty much could be well happening, since we already have Chinese troops exercising New York State and be stationed in Hawaii. I'm sure you're familiar with that the last few months, thanks to Obama. The first thing I would do, if I was trying to declare some sort of emergency or martial law, any type of scenario, I need to control the information. First thing, it's out of the book. I remember when I was in military school, first thing you do, you control the information. You are the information. The propaganda. The official propaganda is the all information. So what do? You need to shut up the slaves. So what do? We go to look for everybody with a ham radio, and we round them up. Because these people are more dangerous than people with guns, in my opinion. And
that's a situation that is possible. I'm not, you were saying Red Dawn. I thought of that when they told him to go find the certain forums that tells all the gun owners. Mm-hmm. Well, the FFLs have those forms.
Oh yeah, I agree.
And it could happen that way. I mean, there's no question in my mind. But that's what's nice about certain. See, like I have handhelds, but will they work? I don't know. But with a QRP Morse code system, I can communicate depending on propagation with most of the U.S.
I think we need more ham radio operators. That's my point, because it's an asset to the true homeland security with the people, to have free individuals that we can propagate free information. That's vital for an emergency. Could be, for example, anything. We could have the internet down. Remember, there was last year in Navajo County, there was somebody by accident supposedly shot one of these pipeline of this DSL, and all the county was down with Verizon. Okay.
Well, if you remember, was it last year? All of Arizona was cut off.
Exactly.
Because somebody cut.
Yeah.
And they said, they tried to, the media tried to go around it, but somebody had cut through the fiber optics lines.
Exactly.
And I can tell you exactly that the fiber optic lines don't just accidentally break because they're cold or there's water.
No.
Those things have to be cut with a sophisticated cutting device. I mean, they're not something. I mean, you could take a torch and it'd take you a while to get through them. So
and you need to know where they are and all the things. So for me, in my opinion, there is no kid out there playing some pranks. That was a dry run. Seriously, I really believe that was the fact. But regardless, even if it wasn't, things can happen.
And that's where then exactly a situation where ham radio would step in.
Exactly.
And you would be able to communicate with your friends. And, if one battery goes dead or whatever, you still have another one, because these are cheap enough. You can buy 2 or 3 of them and have them handy.
Let's talk about money. For example, the one that the Boy Fong, whatever it's called, maybe you can spell it better than me. The basic model, I know there are a couple models. First of all, what type of power we are talking about in watts, and how much is the cost? I think I know it, but I write to ask to you.
Okay. Well, I started out. In fact, one of the reasons I got into it was the Oath Keepers are setting up community protection teams, committees of safety, and it didn't work in my area, but that's another story. And they introduced me to this Baofeng before I had a license. So I ordered the Baofeng UV82, which is a 1 watt and 5 watt radio. And it comes with, most of these radios come standard with about a 1200 milliamp hour battery. And so basically, in layman's terms, I can listen for 10 to 12 hours before the battery gets too weak. Wow. Transmitting, that probably cuts a quarter off of the time, depending on how much I transmit, of course. And you're not going to be transmitting all the time. You're going to be listening. And but they come also with a 3,800 milliamp hour battery, which is 3 times the size of the standard. And it gives you basically that much power, that much more transmit and receive time.
And how much money are we talking for about this basic Baofeng radio?
Well, the Baofeng UV82 that I bought at the time was about $70 with shipping. And I bought it mainly because it had certain features I wanted. And I was going to use it to practice, and if I break it, so what? It wasn't that much money.
Yeah.
Now you can find these for like $25 to $30 plus shipping.
Wow.
They're about half what I bought for.
Now, this is really good. That's my point. It is very affordable. We're talking about $30 or so. And
Right.
Even if people say, as I said, we need licensed operators that they're professionally trained, or at least they try to do their best to set up a network of communications in case something happens. But also we need American people that they are able at least to listen to this broadcast. And as I said before at the beginning of the show, to listen, you do not need to have a license. You just need to know how to learn, to listen, and being shut up. That's the bottom line. Now,
And in that case, you can learn a lot without having to go through the licensing. Because, like I said, when ham operators talk, and especially in an emergency, they have to be accurate and to the point. So there's not a lot of bull going on in an emergency. They broadcast and say, there's an accident on 1st and 3rd. They need police and then you can't go to 1st and 3rd if you're like in having to get out of an area or evacuate an area. You want to take another route.
yes.
Say things like that. And in fact, let me cover my progression, if you will, on these. I also bought later the F9, which is a 7-watt radio, and I got a lot greater range. And also, of course, if I bought a mag mount antenna that goes on your car, which was about $16, I think. They're around that, and I can actually extend my range further with that kind of antenna than the one that comes with it. Now, they receive pretty good no matter where you are. You can receive from quite a ways. You may get a little static and stuff depending on the weather and things like that. But when you're transmitting, like I do, I've worked. I like to have like a mag mount or an antenna. I'm designing or building a couple of antennas that have been designed for emergency purposes. But recently, Baofeng, and there's another one called YTY, I think it is, and there's a couple other cheap model radios. Like Baofeng put out one called BTEC UV 2501, and they put out a UV 20. They put out another version that uses another band. It's a tri-band, and then they put out one UV 5001. Well, the 2501 is roughly 25 watts, but it actually puts out a little more than that in some cases.
Yeah.
And the 5001 is a 50-watt radio. Okay. And I got the cheaper one to experiment because it runs off your car. You can plug it into, it has a cigarette lighter adapter.
Like, for example, talking about this type of, because they're my favorite, honestly. I mean, I know that you can get a great home station, okay, with a big antenna and probably reach the moon if you want to, but then you're kind of static, okay? I mean static, you're stationary, that's what I meant. But let's say in an emergency you want to be mobile, and I'll leave it like that, okay? I don't want to get too much into scenarios, but I think the best thing, because you can be pinpointed immediately. Let's say you broadcast, okay, and there is an emergency, they can triangle you very much by the yard, by very accuracy, pinpoint you down. Is that true or not? I mean, if you...
If in fact, the FCC has teams that if you transmit on certain frequencies, if you're not being a nuisance, then most people probably won't even, say anything. The FCC certainly won't. But if you're being a nuisance and causing problems, they do have, in some areas, mostly major metropolitan areas, the ability to triangulate you, and teams set up to do that, to stop you from interfering with, people who are trying to enjoy ham radio or use it for emergency. So, yeah, that is possible. And that's possible with any radio. You can do the same thing to a military radio, for example.
So
I can triangulate where they are.
Exactly. So the idea to have anyway a radio that you can, let's say, broadcast while driving or while on the move, I think it's very, very good thing to have, because sometimes you gotta just...
Now, if you're moving, it's harder to find you if you're driving. So
I like, my little ignorance, because I'm not really an expert, but as I said, I like to study a little bit of everything, and I'm fascinated about the ham world. Even I have all the books, and I probably study a lot, but I never did the test. And I don't broadcast, so don't get too drooly excited out there that I'm breaking any laws, because I'm just enjoying to listen. That's all I do. I talk enough on the radio here. So anyway, the Yaesu, for example, FT857D or similar models, they are kind of a mid-range price. Okay, we're talking about $800. This is no more than little $30, $40 radio. We're talking about something for the next level. But you can also plug those in... for example, in the car, or even just have them with a battery, charge them and put them on. They give you like a little pack that you can wear them on you, and you can hike, you can walk. Did you ever try those?
Yeah, now there's other options with those kind of radios, too, that people may not have thought about. See, with mine, I can only broadcast. And, like, I can set up an antenna. And if you remember the old World War II radio packs, basically, I can make one of those out of an Alice pack with an antenna up that I can move with the group or whatever.
Yes.
Like, for example, in a search for a kid, I can move with the group and communicate. Of course, you can do that with handhelds. But the big thing about those upper-end radios that you're talking about, there's Wooson that has them, and there's several models, Alenco. Anyway, Alenco, I'm sorry, I kept pronouncing it wrong. Anyway, you can buy two of those, say get two 50-watt radios, tie them together, and you make a repeater.
Wow.
So that in an emergency, I could take one of those, and that's one of my goals, actually, so that if all the repeaters are down in my area with, say, electrical problems, I can hike up to a high level, set up an antenna, and set up a repeater for other handhelds to use for emergencies.
Wow.
So you can, that's another option. And that's a good option because in an emergency, like I say, you may lose electrical.
Yeah.
And if you can get a station high enough and an antenna high enough, antennas are the most important part of transmitting and, in fact, receiving. So, like I say, with the what we call the rubber duck antenna that comes with the bow fangs and these other handhelds, they're good. You can receive quite a ways. But you can also hook an antenna up and stick it on your roof and listen and still not violate the law as long as the HOA allows it or whatever. But see, the nice thing about FCC regulations is in most cases, I can fight an HOA or anything and be allowed to put up a tower or an antenna pretty much anywhere because it's used for emergencies. And so the FCC comes in and says, wait a minute, you guys need to back off because this is a... Now, some HOAs get away with stopping people. I've heard problems with that. But in the city building codes, as long as I'm complying with the safety regulations, and the safety regulations for FCC towers is a little more stringent than the local city guy because he doesn't even know what it is most of the time. So basically, I can set up an antenna as long as it's not interfering with other people's things.
This is interesting, guys. Please, the reason why I'm pushing and try to spend some time on this topic because communication it's the most vital part on any type of emergency or resistance or any type of defense or anything. If without communication you're like blind, you don't have intelligence, you don't have information. And we don't need to go into some crazy scenarios. All you need to think about it, we have an EMP, for example, that some of the satellites goes down. And the internet is also part of the satellite, okay? And of course, we need to take care of your hardware, because if there is an AMP, now maybe you, Glenn, you're an expert also on this, or at least you study a lot about this. I was reading some of your stuff. You know, for example, let's say I have walkie-talkies, or I have a ham radio, and there is a big EMP, or there is a big solar storm. My walkie-talkie or my ham radio may be compromised, if not shielded.
That's true. I've read. See, the problem with EMP is we really don't know what'll happen. We really don't. We do know that it's the same as a solar flare, basically, only on a much more massive scale, and so there is the possibility of the electronics in your walkie-talkie going down. That's why in my emergency setup that I'm putting together, I've looked at various bags, EMP bags and stuff, that I could package them in to package in my Alice pack, so that I could take and grab them and run, and set up an emergency system.
Yeah.
So, and have that available. Now, interestingly enough, somebody told me about the metal trash cans, and I looked up some interesting videos on them and seen some tests where I'm kind of convinced that if you get a metal trash can, the big 33-gallon or 50-gallon, whatever they are type, and put your stuff in there, it could shield most of your stuff from EMP. So that's another option. And one guy recommended putting cardboard inside, and I kind of agree with that, because that prevents electrons from going through into the thing a little better, and it's just an extra protection. But that's one thing you could do: set that up in your garage, in your truck, or whatever. Any kind of metal container is kind of EMP resilient. So that's one, that's something to consider, definitely.
Another thing I found out, probably, maybe people can make them themselves. They sell some specialized Mylar bags that they are technically made exactly, at least marketed exactly for this sort of protection for, let's say, electronic equipment from solar flares or EMP. Little pricey, but I think the idea of this sort of a Faraday cage, like you were talking about, this sort of a trash can made of metal, it's a really good idea. What about, probably the same concept would be if you have like a shipping container, that's technically almost like a Faraday cage, don't you think?
Right, and they do make some really good metal camera cases and stuff that you could try, that you could use. And let's be clear, these radios that we're talking about, the Baofangs, are very dependent on microelectronics, microcomputer and stuff like that. So they're very susceptible to EMP. The batteries themselves may work. I've read one argument that batteries may even charge a little bit, but if you don't have any electrical to use them, they're kind of useless.
Exactly.
But so these things that we're talking about are very susceptible to EMP attacks. There are, however, if you can find them, there are old pieces of equipment that still use tubes and stuff.
The analogical things, right? The old transistor stuff, not these computerized things, right?
Right, exactly. But mainly if you can find the tube stuff, and of course you'll have to find tubes for them to replace.
Yeah.
Those are less susceptible to EMP attacks.
Yeah. No,
and but yeah, the older bulk transistors are probably a little more resistant than what we got now, but they're still a little susceptible. But these are you can still find these on the internet. In fact, I've looked at a few that I want to order when I'm able to get into high frequency communications.
Very good. No, Arista, I'm glad. And guys, don't get too bored or don't get too, oh my God, is this such a Greek talk or Italian talk? No, this is about give you the beginning of your journey. Put some curiosity into you. The idea that you don't need to become a technician, you don't need to become an expert. All you need to do is start to buy your little ham radio for $30 or so, the Boy Fong, or now I would like, please say again the right way, if you even can spell it out, because I want everybody know for sure. And you can buy this little radio, comes with a little booklet, and by the way, online you can find on YouTube a lot of videos that explain how to use it, just even how to operate, to listen. And that's how you're going to do, because you don't want to break the rules. You know, you don't want to sound like an idiot when you don't have a license. And but you can listen. And in the moment of emergency, you're able to listen, and God's willing, somebody's trying to harm you. You know what? I'm not going to tell you you're breaking the law or not, but I tell you, if somebody's trying to harm you, I think at that point, you know, if you have a radio, you need to ask for help. You know what? I'm ready to challenge the law. Then, you know, we can talk later after how many fines I'm going to get. But
well, actually, I should stipulate also that you need a license for normal operation.
Mm-hmm.
If there's an emergency that is a possible loss of life or property, you can use them.
Excellent.
Okay, you can use any frequency. In fact, you should use the frequency that's most likely to make contact. In other words, don't flip through and try and everything. You should know in your area, okay, these frequencies, and if you go to a local ham group meeting, even if you're not a ham operator,
yes,
they'll tell you, this is the frequency we use. Here, we'll program it for you.
Yes, no, they're very nice, by the way. I've been a couple of these meetings in the area, you know, when I was getting my books and try to learn. Very friendly people. It's like a club. They try to, they want you, blood. They want people informed and educated, try to be good broadcasters. That's their goal, and I like that. Honestly, it's a great thing that people help each other. That's the spirit, okay? Now, question is, for example, you are in Williams, okay? I am in Mohave County. Let's say out of the blue, you know, everything goes down. No more internet, no more cell phones, no more phones. How could we be able to talk? Or at least how could I be able to listen to you with my ham radio, for example, Yaesu, or what should I do?
Well, there's two types of operation in radios. One of them is called simplex. That's just radio to radio.
Okay.
Okay, I just set in a frequency, like say 14785, and you put in 14785 and we talk. The other operation is through repeaters.
Yes.
And repeaters give you the range. They also make GMRS repeaters, but again, you have to have a license to use them. And so if the electrical's still up and the repeaters are still up, and you had the Williams repeater, we just got ours up, by the way, the WIN repeater, thanks to the guys who operate that. And that's something people got to understand, is this is all volunteer.
Yes.
There's no pay for going up and setting up these repeaters or fixing them. So, you know, we really appreciate the guys that do this, and I volunteered to help myself.
Yes.
But, so, if the power's still working in Williams, you could, if you had a good antenna, and say all your power's out and none of your repeaters are working, you could theoretically talk to my repeater and I could talk back and forth to you. But let's say that's not an option. Let's say that it's my repeater's down too. All the power is knocked out in Arizona, for example, you know, or northern Arizona. That's where I get, if I could walk up to Bill Williams Mountain where the repeaters are, if I can get up there, I could set up a repeater and we could talk. Because with 50 watts, I should be able to reach. Well, you're in Golden Valley. That might be tough, but it could. If I have a good antenna, or can hook into a good antenna, you should still be able to talk back and forth.
With the repeaters, you know, they will really help. I mean, the repeaters, you can technically create a network across the states. That's the most important thing. Listen, we're almost at the end of the time, you know. I want to thank you, first of all, for even just putting this sort of curiosity, this seed into the hopefully the new people who are listening. Now you got another 60 seconds before I have to final this part of this hour. I want you people to remember, first of all, your website with your news. You have an independent news outlet, and also your website where people can look for your books. You also book out. Please go ahead.
Yeah, our time always goes fast, doesn't it? Anyway, I do have a northernArizonaGazette.com. My website for my ham, where I discuss a lot of this, and I try and keep it as non-technical as possible, is KG7YDJ at KG7YDJ.us. That's my call sign, and it should be easy to remember. I'm also an accredited volunteer examiner, by the way, so I can, with 2 other hams or 3 other hams, I can administer any of these tests. So if your group down there needs help,
wow, that's great.
I'm available to come down and help with doing exams.
That's really good, really good.
And basically, ham is fun. You meet a lot of great people, but also, like you said, for an emergency situation, there is, when everything else is down, it's hard to beat.
Yeah.
So
that's good. Listen, I appreciate it. So please go to Glenn's website, because it's also, we need to support independent media, people that try to put the news without the filters. And in every community, I hope more people coming out with ideas like yours. I really appreciate that. Now, before we go ahead, you can stay with me. I have 5 more minutes. I have to pretty much share one thing. I am launching a product, okay, that is nothing new. It's a rifle, okay? And by the way, I am not, it's not going to be the last rifle, the first rifle. There are billions of rifles, thankfully, out there. But what I envision in my little, dreaming, I wanted to think that every law-abiding person in this country, every American, woman or man, or I don't care which sex you are, even if you're a transgender, I couldn't care less. Anybody who believes in freedom, she needs to have at least 1 rifle. Now, the economy is tough, times are tough. Some people, they're waking up, and thankfully, at least you're waking up. Maybe you don't want to wait for Christmas to have a rifle. You don't want to wait the next year. You want the rifle today. Okay, I'm not a gun manufacturer. I'm not even a gun dealer. I'm just a guy that likes to think, and sometimes I think too much. Probably I should, just drink more wine. But I came up with this idea, and it's called the Don't Tread on Us rifle, okay? It's a rifle that takes the name from one of my songs, Don't Tread on Us. I created this package in a combination with a local Arizona manufacturer who creates lowers, and I will get more descriptive next time. Pretty much that I can offer a rifle to the public for less than $500. I'm talking about an AR-15 military grade chamber in 5.56, okay? This is not target shooting stuff. This is not match shooting. This is a military grade barrel, military grade receiver, anything that can stand the idea that this rifle is to defend your life, your property, and this republic. Spell it out. Simple as that. So, and as I said, there is a way. I'm not a dealer, and I'm not going to become an FFL dealer, but I will follow the rule and the law, of course. There is a way that through FFL dealer, this rifle will be available for an incredible price of $499. An AR-15 made all in the USA, no Chinese crap, okay? And most of the parts, they're made in the Arizona, the state of Arizona, at least the lower. Now, and it's assembled in Arizona. Now, beside that, I also believe the biggest weapon that we need is called education. So you don't just get a rifle, also you're going to get a package of ebook, How to Become a Rifleman. I'm not here to be Davy Crockett, but, I did several schools, education, and I did graduated to many of them, and I also qualified, for example, for the Army qualification test with Appleseed Group, or, I also graduated from the front-side classes. So all I'm doing, humbly sharing what I learned in this ebook, because I want to have everybody with a gun or a rifle to have some basic knowledge. And, of course, I hope you can attend classes and do more than just buy my ebook. But the ebook, it's free. So you get the rifle, you get the e-book, How to Become a Rifleman, you get also a beautiful copy of the parchment of the United States Constitution that you can bring with you and put in the butt of your rifle. That's the most important weapon we must show to the vampires, like, garlic, holy water on their skin. Show them the Constitution. They need to abide by the Constitution. Remind them. And that's why we have a rifle, to defend this Constitution. And then, of course, I also give you a beautiful, it's a little more, an old CD, Don't Tread on Us, for digital download. It's worth $10. Normally on Amazon $4.99, and you get also an laser engraved Don't Tread on Us personalization of the rifle on the ejection part of the dust cover. Okay, all that for $4.99. We're talking about really. I'm not doing this for the dollars because I really make almost no money. Okay, but this is not the government. I'm not socialist. I need to make a buck too, but it's going to be really little profit. But my only goal is not for the money. This is about to give everybody the opportunity to buy a decent AR-15 for the price that normally you buy a cheap handgun. Okay? That's the bottom line. So that's what I want to do. If you are curious, I'll tell you how to do it. Go to this website, rifletraining.tv. Or even better, I bought a new domain name today that it will redirect there. It's called freedomrifle.com. Okay, freedomrifle.com or rifletraining.tv, and there is the page about the Don't Tread on Us rifle. You can send an email. If you're interested, send an email and choose which configuration would you like. Okay, and I'll let you know when the rifle is available. Now, time to go. Thank you, Glenn. Keep me posted, and I'll talk to you soon, okay?
Sounds good. Thanks for having me on, and we'll talk to you again.
Thank you. Now, don't go away, guys. Next hour.
Have you ever met someone on an online dating site and thought, wow, this guy is perfect for me, or she is simply amazing, only to find out they were hiding a deep, dark secret? They plan to vote for Hillary. FreedomLovers.us was created for singles who want to exchange ideas and a love for freedom. People who are looking for solutions to create and defend freedom in the real world, and at the same time, getting that once-in-a-lifetime chance to find their true soulmate. Whether you are interested in meeting your soulmate, making new friends, networking, or hanging out with that like-minded liberty lover, visit freedomlovers.us. It's the first free dating site and community. So patriots, don't waste your time with other dating sites. FreedomLovers.us is the place where like-minded singles really live.
Okay, guys, this is Luca Zan, breaking news. You're listening to Love, Guns, and Freedom, and on KTOX 1340 AM. Of course, this show is being recorded right now, and you're going to listen to this probably Sunday during the final hour. Today, plans were to have a beautiful, peaceful love hour, and I was going to do some prank serenades and drink wine. Guess what? Not going to happen. There is something too big, too important to share. And unfortunately, the time that you're going to get this news, we may have more updates, hopefully better updates. What's happening right now that the federal government is starting to arresting people who participated at this, they call it standoff, I call it peaceful protest, since pretty much what was in Bunkersville exactly last year, the April of 2015, or 2014, I'm confused now. But anyway, the last year, 2016, we are now, 2014, yep. Anyway, the point is, they arrested another of the Bundy's brothers, and then, of course, another person that I know pretty well, because he's been on my show as on my guest many times, Eric J. Parker from the Idaho 3%ers. It's amazing. It is amazing what's happening right now. But I would like to have my friend Michael Emery, that is the official voice of the Voice of Idaho, and has been there in Burns, in the state of Oregon, the last almost 3 months at this point, that probably may give us more input and more updates on what's going on, especially on the arrest of Eric Parker, that I know is one of the most peaceful guy I never met. And it breaks my heart now to see that he's sitting in some cage with his family left behind. And let's just talk 1 second to Michael. I'm really irritated now. Michael, are you there?
Yeah, I am.
Okay, Michael, please give us some updates, because you made a great point before when we were off the records. You know, what's happening right now, this federal government, I don't think has any type of moral or legal justification, but they're trying to push for some sort of, as you want to say, almost pushing for some sort of confrontation. Can you tell us exactly what happened just the last 24 hours with the Bundys, the last two Bundys brothers, Dave Bundy's one of them, and also with Eric J. Parker from the Idaho 3% Center?
Well, you know, like I said last week, we were helping Lisa Bundy facilitate and get her belongings and Ammon's belongings off there in Lavoie's and everything else. Matter of fact, staying at a ranch where all these vehicles have been put in storage so that we can get them to the rightful owners. This morning we left out at 5 o'clock in the morning and drove all the way to Emmett with Ammon Bundy's truck and the trailer to give to Lisa Bundy. About halfway up, we were getting people calling us when we had reception saying that there's been 5 arrests. As a matter of fact, right when we got to Lisa Bundy's place, that's when we started getting the intel. And I've got to say that through this process here in Burns, Oregon, with the 4 that was left, and also with the individual, I can't remember his name, that was up in Washington State that they arrested. You know, they've been trying to get a firefight, to encourage a firefight with people. The last 4 that were left, heck, the Oregonian was going around with them and gave them a phone. You can see the cameraman in the background, and I still don't understand the full scope of what that was about. Mm-hmm. But we do know that there was people that were provocateurs to try to say that Burns, Oregon was locked down, and that they need help, aid, and support. And when we go out, there was nothing like that happening, but everything has been going towards a point of trying to get people to fight. And now they've murdered Lavoie. They've done. The rest are unconstitutional or illegal in many cases, especially with this today. There's no justification, and all of the charges they have on people will never hold up in a court of law. As a matter of fact, the suits that will be involved with all of this will create a new national deficit. So taking all this into consideration, they are pushing the patriots into a fight. Yeah. And they will not give up until they push someone into a fight so that they can go out and gather up all patriots. This is part of the Patriot Act, folks. Yeah. They want to take out first the leadership, and through that process, taking out people they view as leaders or whatever, they're going to do whatever they have to do to shut this country down and create a civil war. That's what they want.
You know, what is disturbing is this. You're right. You know, it's so plain view that they try to push for a confrontation. At the same time, you know, we want to be smart. We want to always have the higher moral ground. But also, when you are aware that we're living under the National Defense Authorization Act, okay, especially the clause of indefinite detention, and there is no more due process. And the moment that somebody in government can declare you without any type of due process or evidence and a trial, a domestic terrorist, you can be completely disappearing. Okay, how is in the normal mind? Sometimes people are even able to say, okay, I'm sure I have a chance to go in front of a judge and a jury, and I'll be able to prove that they were wrong. And that's normally what in normal times Americans used to do. But when we push now in this situation, in this big question mark, we are even going to have a chance to see a fair trial. Because the point now, people can disappear technically, and this is the law of the land according to their unconstitutional law, but it's still something they try to enforce. So that's very scary.
Yes, it is. And here's something. You know, all this started with the Hammonds case, the case of the Hammonds. And they charged them with terrorism, but we have all of the documents, the court documents, all the way back from 1977 with a monstrosity of evidence of harmful intent to them, time and time again, where they have fought them and won, and they continue to harass them all the way up through. Then they charge them with terrorism.
Yeah.
That's what they're doing. There's somebody that was here that they fired off some fireworks and they created a fire. Instead of charging them at maybe, some other charge, they charged them with terrorism. Folks, they are doing the National Defense Authorization Act, and we've got to step back and look at this for what it is. And I would like to ask our men and women that work within the law enforcement agencies, especially our military, that you have to come to the aid and support of the American people when there's harmful intent. We right now have somebody running for president that is in violation of TK security violations right now at the minimum. And she's running for president. We have judges out here that don't care about due process. We don't have due process anymore. What we do have is a government that is not on the moral high ground, that do not care about our rights, and that the Constitution is dead in their eyes. There is no more promise to anything that they. I mean, I'm almost speechless.
I know.
I'm almost speechless.
As I said, this is like living in a surreal world. We're talking about law-abiding people who never had a crime, or many of them never had a record done, and now being treated worse than the enemies that they're supposed to be. I don't think that if they arrest somebody with ties to real terrorists, they've been treated like that. I mean, this is happening right now in America, and I'm telling you. Of course, now the phone is ringing. Let me just 1 second, get you 1 second this break. Stay there, okay? A caller calling in. Okay, I'm back. Okay, so that's the point. This is really disturbing. Now, what do you know more about details about Eric Parker? I had him on the show a few times. I met him in person when I went there, as a member of the media myself. I'm not shy to say, I'm proud to say, I was there in Barkersville in 2014 in April, and I met Eric. And if that's now, it's a crime. Not only as a member of the media, but also as an American person, as, to be there and exercise my First Amendment, I'm guilty. Okay? Seriously. I'm not ashamed, and I'm not afraid to say that out loud. I'm guilty too. Okay? My name is Luca Zanna, and if we have to live in fear, then now we cannot even exercise our First Amendment in the middle of the desert. You know what? We are nowhere to be called ourselves Americans. So what happened to Eric?
Well, we no longer have due process. They can come get any of us for whatever reason they fabricate. And I know Eric Parker very well. He's been trying to do the right thing on protest and gain awareness. He doesn't want to harm anybody. But I can say he's one of the bravest men I've ever met that is willing to stand up and to try to holler out and say, hey, there's a problem. Let's open up some communication. Eric Parker was one of probably 150 guys that had rifles out on that day in the same manner. So, government, why don't you just come and gather us all up? Why don't you we're all guilty. I think everybody should have a protest and just go out there and say, we're all guilty. You should arrest everybody in the United States. Hell, Pete Santilli, they threw him in jail. Now they're saying he's mentally ill or something, and they can't really make the charges stick, so now they're throwing that card.
Really?
Well,
1 second.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, that's kind of what they're doing, yeah.
I didn't know that. This is like what happened in Russia when for the political dissidents, they're using like the mental, the force institution, or they force you in the mental institution. What they are telling to him? Are they pushing some medication on him?
Well, no, what they're doing is they're saying, well, you have to go through mental evaluation for concessions. Look, I have a news agency. What we are is an investigative reporting news. I have done nothing different than CNN, Fox, ABC. Matter of fact, they stayed overnight. I never once stayed overnight at the Malheur Reserve.
Yeah.
But I was in and out, and I was doing everything I could, just like the ABC reporter was doing everything he could to get the real news.
Wow.
And that's what we've been doing. So, government, why don't you just come get me?
Yeah.
You know? How about this? You've shown your colors. You are no different than the Stasi. And a matter of fact, I know people that are from East Germany that left the Stasi, left that area because of the Stasi, and they say that even the Stasi were more respectful than these freak psychopaths that we have in our government right now. And I can tell you what, I would love nothing better for the men and women that are behind the thin blue line to understand that they are going to push us to the point we'll have to defend ourselves. And we'll win because we have the moral high ground, and they've lost the moral high ground.
Yeah.
And on another note, we must realize that harmful intent to another is a measure for crime. And I do not want to see open warfare in my nation. I have been begging these officers and these people that are agents of the law to do their jobs because I've seen war. I've seen what happens. You fools are going to have to sit there and live with yourself after the smoke clears and say, we could have avoided this. Mm-hmm. You fools.
Yeah.
And that's what you're going to be viewed as fools. And you men and women out there that are sitting back, not wanting to make waves because you're afraid of what will happen to you, it's coming your way. Mm. And if you don't step up to the plate and do something about it now, you may have somebody in your family that will pay the highest price for it. Or they may kick the doors in and throw a flashbang in and maybe it'll land in your baby's crib like it's happened several times.
Yeah.
And as those agents laugh as the baby bounces off the wall.
So
that's
sad.
The kind of monsters they have with Daniel P. Love and all these guys.
My God.
And I could go through some reports where a young girl was 12 years old. Look, folks, I've helped work with these SWAT team agents with foreign weapons, and they make sure they have a 99% survival rate. They know who's in those houses, and if they go in, it's just to make a statement.
Yeah.
And they high-five. Look at how they high-fived and disrespected Lavoie while he was laying there. We've got an individual by the name of Jack Yanis that was murdered in cold blood because of their egos.
Wow.
And that's right. We know for a fact that they knew he was going to shoot the bull, but because he cussed him out, because they wouldn't listen to him, they thought, I'm going to show you, old man. And as he just got ready to pull the trigger on the bull's head to put it down, after they had shot him 100 times and didn't, kill it, one of the officers ran over and pushed him back and his rifle went off, and another one went into a snap training and shot him. And they left him laying there while he was moaning in pain, bleeding out, while his wife was screaming for them to help. That's why she had a heart attack.
Remind me, this is the rancher that he was killed because he was trying to take care of his own animal, right?
That's right. In Idaho, his name is Jack Yanis.
Yes.
And that case has still not seen light of day.
Wow.
So every time we look around, we see the training programs for our officers, and they're setting our officers up to be food for the fodder because officers, the American public is backed into the wall right now, and we're begging you to do your job because we may have to do your job for you. We have Eric Holder that's committed crimes with Fast and Furious and no charges against him. We have Hillary Clinton. We've got Grassley. We've got all these people. We got crimes galore from these politicians. We got Channel 7 in Boise, Idaho that lied to the people to change an election on a debate through the Secretary of State's office, which we exposed. You know what the Secretary of State told me that, Denny? He said, well, that was before I got in office. Well, that was a crime. It was a felony they committed.
Yeah.
See, this is the problem. They don't want to make waves because maybe a governor committed a crime.
Yeah.
But if we go down the road and don't have our seatbelt on, we are taking our lives in our hands if we happen to reach for our license and they think it's a gun.
Yeah.
And shoot us before they make sure that we are threatening to them, because they've turned our good law enforcement officers through the training into soldiers. Yeah. And soldiers fight a different way.
This is, very important. Guys, probably this is the most important part of today's show. This is something that's happening. It's history in the happening in this country, America. And it's up to us how we can end this book. Okay, the book is in writing. We have to gather all the faith, all the energy, all the courage we have as a human beings. Okay, we don't need to be heroes. We don't need to be special soldiers. All we need to be is decent human beings, decent Americans, and start to be not afraid to stand up for the truth, standing up for our fellow neighbors, for our fellow Americans. And when we see evil, like in this case, like, for example, what's happening right now to all our fellow brothers and sisters being detained or be arrested or be persecuted, we must stand up too. We must show them that they need to have an unlimited, probably they have a lot of unlimited piece of paper and ink to write our names. But the point is, there's not going to be enough place, because if they want to find terrorists, just because we are here to expose fraud, we're here to expose corruption, and this takeover of these globalist leeches in our government, we are here. I think we all should be standing up together. So I say this is time to really find our own, inner journey. Decide where we're going to stand, because I believe this is a battle between good and evil. Regardless how we may end up winning or losing a battle on this dimension, at the end of the day, one day we'll be judged, and we're going to be asked, what did you do? What did you say when you had the chance to say something? What did you do when you had the chance to say something? And then we're going to live the rest of our eternity with the regrets of the things that we didn't do or we didn't say. So I tell you, please, let's not be afraid. Let's help each other, and let's stand up together against these bastards, evil doers. That's what they are. Now, did you hear any details about the arrest that happened in, I think it was in Utah, let me double check, of David Bundy? Because I heard that he was also released. I was looking at the Citizen for Constitutional Freedom support group on Facebook, and there was this sort of a press release that, David Bundy, the son of Cliven Bundy, brother of Ammon and Ryan Bundy, he was arrested by the FBI in Miller County, Utah. Approximately 20 FBI vehicles arrive in the county. I mean, this is like they're going for some sort of taking Osama bin Laden. Even, of course, was a fraud, that we know that. But the point, they didn't take probably all these resources to go after Osama bin Laden, the phony Osama bin Laden they had. Anyway, so the point is that Mr. David Bundy was arrested, okay? And then, according to this press release, let's see exactly what they say. This was the same man that authorities beat up in 2014 because he was taking pictures of the BLM stealing cattle. He was unarmed, he wasn't causing any trouble. Still, they abused him, arrest him after 5 hours, they transport him to a jail in Las Vegas. Guess what? He's still now, that was 2014. He was released the day after because they didn't have any type of moral ground and any legal justification. But now this man I see, now he's still in jail. So David Bundy is still in jail. That's the point. Wow.
Yes, and I would like to challenge the FBI or law enforcement to arrest 6 individuals here from Burns, Oregon, that came in here that were exposed as FBI, that were going to break into the armory out here and commit a crime. And they also were exposed threatening, posing as patriots, like trying to make it look like somebody like Eric Parker was the one that was threatening them, when in fact it was FBI. And we know this for a fact. Chris Briles found them out and exposed it. It is absolute documented fact. So if you're going to start arresting people, first arrest the real terrorists. That's where you need to go. And because you did not do that, who are the Nazis?
Yeah.
Who are the evil ones? I've been out here since day one, from the 29th, to the point that we are even homeless. But I don't care about that. We live underneath a bridge. But I'm not going to leave the people of Harney County empty without some type of reporting. And if we can make that kind of sacrifice, folks, you can at least speak out. Yeah. I'm not saying this to get any kind of credit or anything else, but how much like you, Luca, you've been doing this for a long time. And folks, you need to help support your troops out here. We're out here fighting for you to get this information out. Yeah. And it's time to get off your haunches and do something about it. And I know a lot of you are.
I understand. And, as you're right, this is the point that every one of us must do a little bit something. And the first thing we should do is start to really understand that we cannot be afraid. And we need to start to, unfortunately, we need to start to do something. We cannot just always be on Facebook and be, this sort of Facebook warriors. We need to start to write, call in person, the sheriff office, your Congress. I know it's useless, but it doesn't matter. You still call them, let them know what you think and what you know. And the point is, our state legislators, they need to be involved. And more important, you need to start to organize at local level with your sheriff, hopefully leading the way. And if he doesn't lead the way, he needs to get out of the way. Because at this point, it's going to be us against them. I'm sorry. And it's better to be us than you by yourself. You better start to have a plan now. I'm not advocating for any violence, but I tell you something. We need to learn from history. We need to see what happened in the past to people like, during the Russian Bolshevik Revolution, during Stalin, during Lenin, Archipelago Gulag. Read that book. Everybody should read that book to see when they start to get you one by one and you disappear. Same story happened in Italy with Mussolini. Same story happened with Pinochet in Chile, or happened, for example, under Hitler. We cannot let that happen again. So we better start to have a plan, know your neighbors, start to understand that we need to, first of all, propagate and share the truth. We are law-abiding people, and when they want to try to paint us like monsters, everybody must know who the real monsters are. And, speaking about Parker, studying American history, I remember during my test for citizenship, even before I was studying for myself, Captain Parker, he said that, I'm not going to repeat word by word, but just paraphrasing it. If they want a war, let them shoot the first round. But you know what? We're not going to shoot the first round. But if they want a war, we're going to have it here. And I don't want any war. But at the same time, if they're going to shoot the first round, we cannot just be there and take it. We must at least have the moral, legal authority to defend ourselves and our freedom and our properties. But we, the people, we must unite. And to unite, we must share the truth. So I'm telling you, I'm very disturbed today because I knew it was coming, but it's something to see it in real life. It's something that it is so sad. I feel sorry for Eric J. Parker. I feel sorry for every one of them because I know him directly or indirectly. I know that they would never done anything bad as human beings, as Americans. And now I see them rotting in these jails with the system against them. And, only God knows what they're going through in these jails. And now don't get me wrong, I don't feel sorry for them because I may be the next one, okay? So don't get me that, I'm not going to be maybe the one that is going to be, who knows? I was there as a member of the media, and I'm proud of it. And I think every one of us should be proud to stand up and report the facts. And I'm proud of you that you're there and doing your part and more than your part. By the way, people need to support you. You're there, without resources, without funds, you don't have like sponsors like these big networks. How can people find your website and support you?
Well, just go to thevoiceofidaho.com, or you can go to type in on the PayPal account, The Voice of Idaho at gmail.com, and that you can go through that as well. One of the things, they may try to come after me. They may try to come after you, but I'm not going to be silent, and I don't care if they do, because they are wrong. And you can easily find our website, but help support Luca. He has been out there far longer than we have, and we all are on the front lines here, folks. So it's time to support your troops. And it may not be us. Maybe it's somebody else. But whatever you do something.
Yeah, as I said,
Anything.
Mike, I said, this is not a hobby. This is not something to entertain. This is real as you can get. And for us, regular people, honestly, I couldn't care less to spend my Sunday or my weeks, doing these interviews or be on the show. I don't care to be behind the microphone. I have so many beautiful things I can do. And there's not enough money could pay me for, to do what I'm doing, because I think this is really risky business, when, even if I'm local, small little fish, the facts that we talk about things nobody else wants to touch. And bringing facts that, there is no left, no right, no Republicans, no Democrats. We talk about these things no other media wants to touch. So I'm telling you guys, please, at least don't take it for granted that we are here on the air. Don't take it for granted that Michael Emery is still there walking and is having his website up and running, because tomorrow may go down. Me, I may be not probably even being around anymore. Okay, so all I'm saying, don't look and don't wait for the orders from above, or don't wait for leadership. Being your leader, start to be outspoken, start to show that it doesn't matter if Luca Zanna is going to disappear, or if Michael Eber is going to disappear. It's going to be always new people being into this struggle. That's what we need to show. We are not afraid.
Well, you want to talk about courage, Luca? When we dropped off the truck and the trailer to Lisa Bundy, she had her little kids running around, and she had just got off the phone with her husband that's in jail. Wow. And then she just got us information that his brothers were thrown in jail. And you could see her trembling a little bit, but with courage. And she says, do you think that they're going to come after me? Folks, that just sent a chill down my spine. I've watched men die for this nation. And how dare you, men behind the machine, put that woman in that position. This should enrage all of us to stand up and with one resounding voice. That woman is worried about a SWAT team coming into her house and maybe watching her children bounce off the wall with a flashbang. This is the kind of psychopaths we have. And I'm a little upset about it. I'll tell you.
No, this is terrible. I tell you, it's all upside down. And now they know that we know. I mean, the reality now, we see the real criminals. They're still walking out there. Look at Hillary. I mean, if anybody else on this planet would have even done 1/10 of what she's done, from Benghazi and the servers and the emails and Fast and Furious, they get caught, giving illegal weapons to criminals in Mexico. And there's still these people that are supposed to tell us that we are the criminals. When they're the biggest criminals out there, it's on the open. And now that's why I think really that's coming down stronger, because they're going to try to push for the final rush. I mean, I really believe 2016 is going to be the year that they're going to try to, as you said, take down, snuff out, or whatever you want to call them, take down all the people that normally they're outspoken, the leadership, and then come to whatever it's left of the opposition. And then the people are going to be all afraid. And we're all going to be around again, back to history, to 1934 Germany, the night of the broken glass, when everybody was afraid and Hitler finally was the new emperor. That's the bottom line. So you know what? I tell you something, guys. You Democrats, or you people that normally think that, you have nothing to do with this. Guess what? Next time they're going to be after you. You may not care about the bandits. You may not care about the grazing rights. You may not care about property rights because maybe you're a bunch of communists, whatever. The point, next time they're going to come for your ideas. Next president, and we'll have the same tools that this tyrant called Barack Hussein Obama, the biggest piece of garbage. But you know what? The guy, this man, is not even a man, he's the devil, in my opinion. Unfortunately, it is not his fault. It is our fault. After all, he's just a scumbag. He's just a thug from Kenya. That's what he is. The problem that we let him happen because we've been afraid to speak up, or we've been too brainwashed by this two-party system, or being too bought out like the Republicans, paid off by the other side. So that's the bottom line. It's our fault this is happening. So it's time to really start to take a stand and decide if you want to stay on which side you want to stand. And if you want to think that, okay, I'm going to just be silent, I'm going to be in the center, guess what? It's not going to fly. Your silent will be exactly consent. So that's all I can say. This may be my last show I do, because I'm telling you, if I don't see some reaction from the people out there, why am I doing this? Why? Okay? I know why. At the end of the day, I do it for myself, because I have an oath to fulfill as a new American I took in 2005, and my oath was to defend this republic against all enemies, foreign and domestic. That's the bottom line. So I don't care. But I tell you, if a guy like myself, with a freaking accent, I can even speak English straight sometimes when I get excited, okay? And I was even born here, for God's sake. I'm here putting my face out and my neck out. I wonder, and I hope you blood-burn American people, you should do much more than I do. And I know you're going to do it. But please, show it to us. Can be just Michael Emery or Luca Zanna or some other idiots like that, okay?
Luca, I'll see you on the other side if that's necessary. But the light of love and light of truth, be with all of you and be with you, because, brother, you are not alone. And I can tell you right now, we have won the information war. We will win this no matter what. My greatest fear is that after the smoke clears, we'll all look at each other and say, you know, we could have avoided this pain and anguish.
Yeah,
but
I agree.
you sheriffs out there that say you're constitutional sheriffs, you better get off your hind legs. Get onto your hind legs, I should say. Stand up and serve the people, because we've got some monsters, and it's called the bureaucracy.
Yeah.
And it's time for you to do the right thing for you people in the county. By God, if I was a sheriff right now, I can tell you that I would probably be firing half of my people, vetting them, and hiring new people, and I would definitely deputize my certain qualified individuals throughout my county, so we could protect ourselves against this totalitarian, insane monstrosity that our government has become.
Yeah,
Luca, you're not alone.
No, I know. Listen, sometimes I know there's a lot of great people out there. Sometimes I can get a little frustrated, but the point is, reality is, I don't care even if I had to do it by myself on my part of the world. And I know I am not. There are a lot of good people here. Don't get me wrong. Like, I know there are a lot of good people there. But we need now the average person normally doesn't care. All they think is about, okay, mind my business, pay your bills, and go back to your work. That's not going to fly anymore. We cannot do this just us. We need all of us. Otherwise, we're all going to pay. And I don't care which party, seriously. If you are a Democrat, you think, your guy is doing it great, and, we are a bunch of right-wing people. Guess what? There is no right, no left. This is about the basic human rights of every human. We are living right now under martial law, for God's sake. There is no more due process. Not only the Patriot Act. If you were bitching about the Patriot Act from Bush, and I agree with you, now you should be screaming about the Obama National Defense Authorization Act, of course, passed with the help of both parties. Okay, and that's what's happening right now. Maybe because it doesn't happen to you or to me yet, doesn't mean that it's not happening. They're arresting people just because they feel like it. Okay, that's the bottom line. Anyway, Michael, I don't know. I just hope to be in touch with you, and if I don't hear from you, maybe we'll see each one of these days.
Well, I hope to shake your hand, brother, and you have given me great hope. And I got to say that you could be in my foxhole anytime, and if it ever come down to, God forbid, we'd have to protect each other. I've got your back.
Listen, thank you. I pray for you and your lady, and all I can say, thank you for spreading the news and being there. And as I said, this is all on the open. Last time we had an interview. I think it was a very successful interview. I mean, at least we created a lot of interest. A lot of people talk about it. You brought some very important topics. You brought out some names. I gave the opportunity to the names that you brought out to defend themselves and to rebuke your positions. And, this is the good thing about the show. There are no censorship here. That's the bottom line. So everybody's welcome. And all I can say, we are living in a very, very interesting times, let's put it this way. And can be exciting because this is the same situation like our founding fathers went through. We had to face the various adversities, but also can be something that we're going to regret the rest of our eternity if we do not do the right thing. And the first thing we got to do not be afraid and love our neighbors. That's the bottom line. This is about love now. If somebody is rotting in jail and you know that is an innocent person, you cannot go back to watch the stupid TV and get drunk. Sorry, you get drunk after this is over, okay? That's the bottom line. And same story when you know that they're coming for somebody else. You got to start to decide if you want to do the right thing, and start to speak up. Thank you, Mike. Yeah. Keep me posted, okay? I'll give you the floor the last 60 seconds. Whatever you want to say, you got the floor.
This is all about love, and it's called the light of love and light of truth. That's what our news agency stands for. That's what your news agency stands for, and 1,000 across this land plus. It's time for us to step up to the plate and say no.
Very good.
And that's it.
Very good. Okay, guys, you're listening to Love, Guns, and Freedom. We'll look at Zana. This is the final hour. I got the final segment. I'm going to play a song just to relax. I need a glass of wine. And
we, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. Now we are going to get America back. We to die. Now is the time to remind them what's wrong, what's right. And now is the time to get back our country, to get back our lives. They steal, then they lie. They side with the other side. They forgot that we can fight. We the people, we're going to fight for our rights. We the people, we're not afraid to die. They try to sell our country, they try to sell our rights. Love for America, no, you can't buy. Amnesty my ass, get back in the line. We are Americans, don't even try. We're ready to fight, we're not afraid to die. Traitors, you can run but you can't hide. Government of the people, by the people, and for the people. We the people, we're going to fight for our rights. We the people, we're not afraid to die. We the people, we're going to fight for our rights.
Here we go. Back on the air. Meanwhile, just to let you know, I enjoy today a beautiful glass, and I mean full glass, of Jägermeister. You know, normally I like wine, and I'm not into heavy alcohol, but this is really good. I like it because it's natural. Somehow it's from the herbs of Germany. Hopefully they're not going to outlaw it pretty soon, because, you know, now they can pretty much outlaw any herbs. You know, they can outlaw a plant. Why not some herbs from Germany? Anyway, I'm enjoying this Jägermeister, and I'm drinking to the honor of my brothers and sisters in America who are not afraid to face tyranny. And also I'm drinking on the face of these bastard pigs who are pretty much following the orders, just following the orders, like good old Nazis used to do. This is a serious business, my friends. You may agree or not what I have to say, that's fine. But the fact that you know that this is a serious business, this is not a joke, this is not a game, this is not a hobby, this is not just a regular radio show. This is not, we're not talking about cigars or women or stuff like that, okay? We're not talking about football. We're talking about freedom, talking about slavery, talking about what's going to happen to the rest of us, to our next generation. To honor our founding fathers, to honor what people before us fought and died for, and try to preserve this republic, or what's is left, to take it back. This is coming from a guy, as you can hear, that was even born here. You know, and sometimes I feel really out of place, because I say, what the heck? I shouldn't even be here on this, behind this microphone. Probably, I feel like I should follow some of you people who were born here, you that you had maybe your great-great-grandfather fighting for the foundation of this country. I should be just here as a fresh immigrant, of course, naturalized citizen, to follow you. Sometimes I feel like humbly, what am I doing? Can't even speak straight English sometimes. I try. I try with all my heart. That's all I can say. You know, and when I came to America from Italy, and I have no idea what I was going to face. But I tell you something. It is my honor to be with you today. If that's what God wanted, to be here, to try at least to stand for the last bastion of freedom in this world, what used to be this United States of America, it's my honor to be with you, brothers and sisters. And I tell you, I'll do everything I can, even just stay behind this microphone, fearless. Don't get me wrong, I'm a human being. I'm not Rambo, I'm not Superman. I enjoy life. I would like to see a few more years on this planet. I have so many things I want to do. I want to write books, write more songs, shoot guns, drink wine, and eat pasta. Yes, I love life. Okay? I love love. But at the same time, I'm not a freaking slave. I'm not going to live in fear 1 hour, 1 second of this humble existence that I have, because I'm fearful of you, scums, that you think now you can push some sort of a tyranny on us. I didn't come all the way to America from Italy to live a system of bondage and slavery to come to another slave system. I'm not going to. And on top, I took an oath. Yes, I'm not a soldier, and I hope you, veterans, who took an oath, you will fulfill this oath to defend this republic against all this scum. I'm here just a regular guy. And on this oath, I'm trying to fulfill it, even being behind this humble microphone. Saying what I think, exposing the corruption, exposing this evil, this completely, it is not just a federal overreach. This is a new world order in action after you understand that what they're doing, they're using our government to enforce this global agenda of global tyranny, to expropriate people from their properties. There is no more due process. We are under already a martial law. Don't forget the National Defense Authorization Act. I could be gone any time. Maybe the only reason why I'm not gone yet, because maybe I'm not enough big, not enough important. That's fine. I will keep talking no matter what. That's what I'm saying today. And I hope some of you guys, the people that have a badge, and you think, you're just following the orders, you realize that tomorrow maybe would be your son, could be your daughter on this side. Think about it. You're setting the example, and you live in some sort of a heritage. You live in your legacy. That's what you want to remember for. Just following the orders like the Nazi didn't work really well at Nuremberg trial, right? You need to start to decide where you want to stand. You know that, there is no crime when there is, we have people that they are rotting in jail, that no crime was committed. Beside that, just speaking out, just being there, exercising our First Amendment and standing for the Constitution. If you understand the Constitution, you know that even in some sort of a freaking idiot like myself can even barely sometimes understand grammar. I can read the Constitution. I understand the boundaries where pretty much the federal government should have. The BLM should not even exist. Okay? To be now have these executive orders that by, the magic pen of that son of a... I wish I wasn't on the air sometimes. I feel better when I start to cuss. I'm sorry. I know I'm not a good Christian, but I don't give a damn. The son of a prostitute called Obama, okay, and more important, Congress, those pack of cowards sold out, starting from Mitch McConnell and that piece of garbage of Harry Reid, all following this globalist agenda. They are selling us out to the New World Order, to the global government. And look now, all this brouhaha, taking over the property of the Hammonds, taking over the properties of the Bundys, guess what? This is going to go to private corporations. No, even Americans, from foreign corporations to foreign corporations. So wake up. Now, you think, you're on the side of the little jumping cricket or the jumping mouse, or you are one of these, eco-fascists that you think, after all, the ranchers should have no rights to be there. You are just a useful idiot. That's what you are. Because next time they will come for you. The next president, the next scumbag is going to come pretty much enforce another agenda. All you have to do not agree with the official version of the government. You're going to be on the same list that we are right now. That's what I'm trying to say. There is no right, there is no left. There's only freedom or tyranny. You want to be a slave or you want to be a free man? That's the way I look at this. I don't care which party you are. So anyway, as I said, I enjoy life. I'm not Superman, I'm not Joy J. Rambo, but guess what? I'm not even your slave. And I'm having this beautiful glass, maybe another glass I get of Jägermeister, and I'm going to enjoy it. And I tell you, one thing you will never take from me is my dignity as a human being. I am proud to say I was there at the Bundys in 2014. The most beautiful day of my life. I was there as a member of the media, broadcasting, recording. I got beautiful video on YouTube, more 46,000 views. I don't know how many views. I don't care. All I know, I was there. It was the day that I fulfilled my dream as an American, to see what Americans can do. Stand up against an oppressive government. And I'm proud. If you want to put me in jail, go ahead. Help yourself. I don't care. And I hope you listeners understand. I'm just doing my little part. I'm not a radio guy. You know that. I suck on top as a radio guy. I can't do anything right sometimes. But I tell you, it's not about me be a radio guy. It's about try to bring this message out. And if I'm gone, I hope somebody else will get my place. Meanwhile, I hope more people will get my place. Because they cannot get us all after all. You know, and I don't care. I enjoy my life. I had the most beautiful years of my life in this country. Even with all, the difficulties and all the challenges, I feel like I was blessed to have that type of opportunity, to have lived two lives. One as an Italian once, and one I was given by God this gift to be an American. It was the most beautiful thing I ever had. So I'm fine. Now I want to fulfill my oath to defend this republic. And what does it mean? It means that I'm not going to be a chicken crap, and I'm not going to be silent, and I'm going to tell you exactly what I think. So, Obama is a fascist. That's the bottom line. You followers of Obama, you're a bunch of Nazis. That means pretty much the same. Fascist means the union between government and the corporations. It's the same way with socialists. Nazi is a national socialist, so I don't care what you think. If you don't understand what type of tyranny we are living, you are just part of the problem. And I'll keep talking. And I'm telling you, I'm not shutting up. You can arrest me, you can shoot me, you can kill me. I do not care. I do not care. That's it. This is the hour about love. Today I'm supposed to talk about serenades and, little jokes and stuff like that. I couldn't do that. Sorry. We have people rotting in jail. Now, there is another gentleman that is a Tea Party activist. I know many of you, Tea Party, I hate it. Who cares about Tea Party? I can't stand the Tea Party either, but doesn't matter. This man is a law-abiding person. Okay, you may not agree or not with his politics, doesn't matter. This guy is a veteran. This guy is a man that didn't commit any crime. But guess what? Just because he was there at the Bundys, just because he was there supporting with this person the cause of this federal fascist, tasing women, beating up people, training rifles at innocent people, unarmed, confiscating properties. This person, now, just because he was there, tried to make a stand. Guess what? Now he's being kidnapped by the FBI. Don't you love that? Oh, but this is not going to happen to you. After all, you're a good person. You didn't go to the Bundys event. You don't even talk too much about it. And you hate them probably because you don't even like cows. I don't even eat cows myself. Doesn't have to do anything with the cows. So that's all I'm saying. Speak up now or shut up forever and be a good slave. That's all I'm going to tell you. Be a good slave and be proud. Now, for you that you think all the people who went to the Bundys, that they were a bunch of extremists and they deserve it, guess what? Many of us were, first of all, members of the media. Many of us were unarmed. And still, we've been picking down. It's until he was unarmed. As much as I don't, agree with him, he's sitting in jail right now. And never really pointed a gun at anybody. Think about it. Next time could be to you. There are people that they were just there. And by the way, to carry a weapon in a state where it's legal for an American person to have an open carry, that's just called exercising your Second Amendment. Like you exercise your First Amendment, the right of, redress your grievances. Okay? They didn't do anything bad. Nobody got killed. Nobody got, these poor little boys, they were intimidated. Oh, they couldn't fulfill their duty. Pack of Nazi that you are. Feel shame for yourself. Seriously. So my name is Luca Zanna. I know you're listening to the show, and I do not give a damn. Okay? If you want to put me in your list, go ahead. I couldn't care less. For you listeners that you're listening to this broadcast in the future, all I pray, something happens to me, you start your broadcast. That's all I ask you. You start your broadcast and you never stop screaming. There is a point that, they can try to do whatever they can, but they cannot do it all. It's an illusion. It's a fear game. It's millions of us, few thousands of them. And they know it. They try to play this little fear game now. That's why they're so completely determined to push this on the open. They try to put fear into us. Remember something. The only thing you should be afraid of is the regret of things you didn't do or you didn't say. And you will have all eternity to think about that. That's all I'm saying. This is coming from just a regular guy with an accent. All right, let me finish this Jägermeister. It's really good, by the way. It's healthy, in my opinion. This is something really good. You feel like the nature when you drink that. One sec. There we go. That was good. Now, what can I say? I could tell you a lot of things. I had a great show for this hour. I wanted to make some nice prank calls, serenades, be a little, Don Giovanni, and play games. Can't. Sorry. People that are rotting in jails. And I may be gone next. So that's all I can say. I'm here. I gave you my witnessing. I gave you my message. Don't be afraid. Think about what we are facing here. Think about what we can lose here if we lose this freedom. I say every member of the media should be always on the front line to stand for the facts. As every American should stand for our Constitution and Bill of Rights and freedom. It's our duty. Now, if you want to support this show, yes, in case I'm still around, believe it or not, we need funds. This is not the government. We do not steal money from you. Okay, support first of all KTOX. I can't believe it, they still let me be on the air. Pretty amazed. And then more important, support myself. Yes, it takes me a lot of energy to do this show, believe it or not. It's not just the 3 hours. It's all the preparation and the guest and the time. I got so much stuff I have to do, you have no idea. I'd like to go first of all to the range. I don't have time to do that lately. So anyway, if you want to support my show, it's simple. You go to one of my websites, zanna.us, zanna.us, okay? You can download any of my songs for just 99 cents. Or go to iTunes, or go to Amazon, put Gianluca Zanna. If I'm not worth 99 cents today, I really invite you to not listen to this show, because I think you're really a squatter, seriously. And I'm not trying to offend you, I mean it. I'm putting out my name, I'm putting out my neck. I don't ask you to do anything, just to give me a couple of little bit of, jest, little, push that you care. And I'll do my best to keep doing what I'm doing. That's it. All right. Thank you very much. Now, at this point, God's willing, I'll talk to you next Sunday. And I say, long live to the Republic, death to the New World Order. Ciao.